While igloos might seem like just cool-looking snow houses to most people, they represent an ingenious survival technology that allowed Inuit communities to thrive in harsh Arctic conditions. These remarkable structures can maintain indoor temperatures around 60 degrees Fahrenheit, even when outside temperatures plunge to -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Such an impressive feat doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of thousands of years of architectural knowledge of Inuit builders. From emergency shelters during hunting trips to seasonal homes, igloos demonstrate how traditional knowledge can create comfort in one of Earth's most challenging environments. The history of igloos stretches back over 4,000 years, proving that good housing ideas really can stand the test of time. The word itself comes from igloo in the Inuit language, which simply means house, though these days saying igloo house would be like saying house. While movies often show all Inuit people living in igloos year-round, that's about as accurate as claiming everyone in Texas lives on a ranch. In reality, igloos were mainly used as temporary shelters during hunting trips, a practice that continues among modern Inuit hunters. These skilled builders can construct an emergency igloo in just a couple of hours, which sure beats pitching a tent in -40 degrees Fahrenheit weather. But enough with the history lesson. Let's dive into how you can start building an igloo yourself. Building an igloo isn't as simple as piling up any old snow. It requires a specific type of snow. The secret lies in what scientists call sintered snow, which forms when wind packs snow crystals so tightly together that they actually bond at a molecular level. This isn't your average fluffy snowman material. We're talking about snow so compact you can barely stick your finger into it. The Inuit have developed a clever method to find this perfect snow, known as the stick test. They walk around poking a traditional hunting stick into different snowbanks, looking for a very specific feeling of resistance. If the stick slides in too easily, that snow is too soft. If they can't push it in at all, that snow is too hard. They're looking for that just right zone where the stick meets firm resistance, but can still penetrate the snow. Here's a mind-blowing stat. Experienced Inuit builders often test up to 40 different spots before finding the ideal snow for their igloo. That's a lot of poking around, but it's absolutely crucial. Using the wrong type of snow would be like trying to build a brick house out of crackers. When they find the right spot, they've struck white gold. This perfectly compressed snow is actually stronger than you might think. Under the right conditions, blocks cut from sintered snow can be stronger than concrete of the same thickness, thanks to the intricate network of ice crystals that form under pressure. The science behind this is fascinating. When snow gets compacted just right, the individual snowflakes partially melt and refreeze, creating tiny ice bridges between them. This process transforms fluffy snow into a material that's both lightweight and incredibly strong. Now that we've found our perfect building material, let's talk about the tools we'll need to work with it. When it comes to building an igloo, you don't need a contractor's truck full of fancy tools. The traditional Inuit managed with just a few essential items. The star of the show is the legendary snow knife, called a pana in Inuktitut. This isn't your ordinary butter knife that's had a tough day in the freezer. The pana is a specialized tool with a long, wide blade that's specifically designed for cutting and shaping snow blocks. Think of it as a snow sword that would make any winter warrior proud. While many traditional Inuit builders still swear by the pana, some modern igloo architects have started using carpenter's saws. It's kind of like upgrading from a flip phone to a smartphone. Both get the job done, but one might make things a bit easier. The saw needs to be at least 2 feet long to cut through the thick snow blocks properly. And no, your garden hedge trimmer won't cut it, literally. Besides the main cutting tool, you'll need a snow shovel for clearing the building site and gathering loose snow. This isn't just about keeping your workspace tidy. The loose snow becomes crucial later for filling gaps between blocks. You'll also need a measuring stick about 2 feet long. Traditional builders often use their forearm as a natural measuring tool, which works surprisingly well unless you happen to be built like a T-Rex. One tool that often surprises people is a pair of snow goggles. The Inuit traditionally made these from caribou antler or wood, with narrow slits to see through. They're not trying to look cool, though they definitely do, but rather protecting their eyes from snow blindness. The white snow reflects so much sunlight that working without eye protection would be like staring at a giant frozen disco ball. Now that we've got our toolkit sorted out, it's time to focus on the foundation, where every great igloo begins. The foundation of an igloo is like a first date. If you mess it up, everything that follows is doomed. That's why Inuit builders spend more time on this step than any other part of the construction process. First, they clear the site down to hard-packed snow and mark out a perfect circle using a clever technique passed down through generations. One builder stands at the center point, holding one end of a rope that's cut to the desired igloo radius. A second person walks around holding the other end taut, marking the circle in the snow, like a human compass drawing in nature's graph paper. The next step is cutting the snow blocks, and size really does matter here. Traditional Inuit builders cut blocks roughly 2 feet long, 1 foot high, and 8 inches thick. These aren't random measurements. They're carefully calculated to be both manageable to lift and strong enough to support the structure. Getting these blocks just right is crucial. A wobbly block in your foundation is like wearing mismatched socks to a job interview. It might not be immediately obvious, but it's going to cause problems later. The first block placement is arguably the most critical moment in igloo construction. This cornerstone block needs to be placed at a slight angle, leaning inward about 15 degrees. Miss this angle, and your igloo might end up looking more like a snow pile with aspirations. Builders cut the bottom of this first block at an angle, creating what engineers would call a positive angle of attack. Though the Inuit had figured this out long before modern engineering came along, each subsequent foundation block follows the same angle, creating a complete circle that already hints at the dome shape to come. With the foundation set, we're ready to start building upward, where things get really interesting. Creating the signature dome of an igloo is where building turns into an art form. It's like playing Jenga in reverse, but with snow, and if you win, you get a house. Each row of blocks needs to spiral upward and inward at just the right angle, creating that classic dome shape we all know. The mathematics behind this is pretty incredible. Each block needs to lean inward about 2 inches more than the block below it. Over time, this creates a perfect spiral that would make any mathematician's heart skip a beat. As the walls rise, the blocks get progressively smaller. It's not just to make things look nice. This size reduction serves a crucial engineering purpose. Larger blocks at the bottom provide a stable foundation, while smaller blocks at the top reduce weight and pressure on the structure. Think of it like a pyramid scheme, but one that actually works and doesn't end with your aunt trying to sell you essential oils. Here's a mind-boggling statistic. In a properly built igloo, each snow block carries just the right amount of weight to compress it slightly, making it stronger without crushing it. The pressure on the bottom blocks is typically around 10 pounds per square inch. Any more, and they'd crumble. Any less, and they wouldn't bond properly. It's like nature's version of a self-tightening knot. Now let's talk about the rookie mistakes that can turn your dream dome into a snow pile. The most common error is not maintaining a consistent inward spiral. If one block strays too far in or out, it throws off the entire geometry. Another classic blunder is making the blocks too thin to save time. That's like trying to build a brick house with crackers. Some first-time builders also forget to angle their cuts properly, creating gaps that weaken the structure. And perhaps the most tempting mistake is rushing the process when you're getting tired. Remember, a hasty igloo builder soon ends up with an unexpected skylight. With the dome nearly complete, we're approaching the most crucial moment in igloo construction, placing the keystone block that will lock everything GEG together. The final block of an igloo, dramatically nicknamed the king block, is the architectural equivalent of threading a needle while wearing mittens. It requires precision, patience, and maybe a little bit of luck. This single block is responsible for locking the entire dome together, transforming a spiral of snow blocks into a self-supporting structure. It's like the last piece of a puzzle, except this puzzle is supporting several 100 pounds of snow over your head. The technique for cutting and placing the king block is a masterclass in precision. First, you need to cut it slightly larger than the hole it's meant to fill. We're talking about 1/2 inch of wiggle room here. Then comes the tricky part. The block needs to be carefully shaped, like a truncated pyramid, wider at the top than the bottom. This isn't just architectural showing off. This shape creates a wedging action that locks the entire dome together, kind of like the last piece in an arch bridge. The placement process is where things get really interesting. The block needs to be maneuvered through the hole from the outside and then rotated into position. Imagine trying to get a couch through a narrow doorway, but you're working upside down in the cold, with a block of snow that could break if you sneeze too hard. Here's a humbling statistic. Even experienced Inuit builders sometimes need 2 or 3 attempts to get this final piece just right. For first-time builders, the success rate for placing the king block correctly on the first try hovers around 10%. Once the king block is in place, there's often a tense moment of silence as everyone waits to see if it holds. When it does, the feeling of accomplishment is unmatched. You've just completed one of the most ingenious architectural designs in human history. Of course, there's still work to be done inside the igloo, but getting that final block in place is worthy of a celebration. Just try not to cheer too loudly. You don't want your victory shout to bring down the house you just built. With the king block securely in place, it's time to focus on the interior. This is where your snow shelter transforms from a basic dome into a cozy Arctic apartment. The first crucial addition is the cold trap entrance, which might sound like something from a spy movie, but is actually an ingenious piece of engineering. The entrance tunnel is built slightly lower than the igloo's floor, creating a natural natural trap for cold air. Since cold air sinks, it pools in this lower section instead of rising into the living space. It's like having a bouncer that only stops cold air from getting into the party. The ventilation hole is another critical feature that often surprises people. Yes, you need ventilation in a snow house. A small hole, about the size of your fist, is carved near the top of the dome. This isn't poor planning. It's essential for preventing suffocation and managing humidity. Without it, your cozy snow shelter would quickly become a foggy igloo sauna, and not in a good way. Here's where things get really interesting. The interior temperature of a properly built igloo can be up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit, warmer than the outside air. When it's minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, the interior can maintain a relatively balmy 32 degrees Fahrenheit, which might not sound warm until you've spent a few hours in Arctic conditions. Body heat plays a crucial role in this warming process. But here's the clever part. As the interior warms up, a thin layer of the snow's inner surface melts slightly and then refreezes, creating a layer of ice that actually strengthens the entire structure. It's like the igloo is using your body heat to reinforce itself. Perhaps the most surprising feature is the ability to have a small fire inside. The Inuit traditionally use seal oil lamps called kulics for both light and heat. The dome shape helps distribute the heat evenly, while the snow's insulating properties prevent it from melting. The ventilation hole carries away smoke, and that ice layer we mentioned earlier helps protect the structure. Just don't try building a bonfire. We're talking about a small, controlled flame that brings the interior temperature up to a comfortable level without turning your shelter into a snow cone. The versatility of igloos goes far beyond just providing shelter from Arctic blasts. For Inuit hunters, these snowy structures have proven themselves as indispensable as a Swiss Army knife. During hunting trips that can stretch from days to weeks, igloos serve as more than just a place to rest. They're command centers for entire hunting operations. The speed of construction is particularly impressive. Experienced builders can set up a basic hunting igloo in about 2 hours, which is faster than most people can figure out how to set up a complicated modern tent. But perhaps one of the most ingenious uses of igloos is for food storage. In the Arctic, where keeping meat fresh is crucial for survival, igloos act as nature's refrigerators. The stable temperature inside an igloo, consistently hovering just below freezing, creates perfect conditions for preserving meat. Even better, the solid snow walls provide excellent protection from hungry polar bears who might fancy a snack. It's like having a bear-proof freezer that builds itself. When properly maintained, these structures can last an entire hunting season. The key word here is maintained. Igloos aren't set it and forget it structures. Smart hunters regularly patch up any cracks and add fresh snow to weak spots. It's like having a house that occasionally needs a touch-up, except instead of paint, you're using snow. The maintenance process actually helps strengthen the igloo over time, as each new layer of snow adds to the insulation and structural integrity. What's particularly fascinating is how these shelters adapt to different hunting situations. A quick overnight igloo might be relatively simple, while a seasonal hunting base might feature extra amenities like storage areas or multiple rooms. Some hunting groups even create igloo clusters. Think of it as an Arctic version of a hunting lodge complex, complete with separate spaces for sleeping, food storage, and equipment. The design might be thousands of years old, but when it comes to surviving and thriving in one of Earth's harshest environments, igloos prove that sometimes the oldest solutions are still the best ones.
The Inuit people, sleeping at negative 84 degrees isn't just possible, it's normal. So what are the sleep strategies that let them doze off? The first secret starts with clothing. Inuit traditional clothing isn't just effective, it's genius. The classic parka, known as an amauti, uses multiple layers of caribou fur, with the hollow hairs trapping warm air close to the body. One caribou hide can contain more than 700,000 hairs per square inch. That's like wearing the world's warmest, most exclusive sweater. These clothes work through a simple yet brilliant layering system. The inner layer, often made from caribou skin with the fur facing inward, wicks moisture away from the body. The middle layer provides insulation, while the outer layer blocks wind and snow. If you tried to buy this kind of 3-layer protection at a fancy outdoor store, you'd need to take out a small loan. Unlike our modern take-it-off-before-bed approach, Inuit people often sleep in their clothes. In temperatures where exposed skin can freeze in less than 60 seconds, removing layers isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. Body fat also plays an important role in staying warm. Traditional Inuit diets are high in fat, supplying both energy and insulation. This extra layer of natural padding helps protect against the cold. In the Arctic, having some extra body fat isn't just okay, it's smart survival. Mother Nature's version of a built-in electric blanket. When it comes to heating the sleeping area, fire isn't always the best option. Open flames in enclosed spaces like igloos can be dangerous, consuming precious oxygen and creating moisture that later freezes. Instead, traditional stone lamps called kulic burn seal or whale oil, providing both light and gentle heat without the dangers of an open flame. Body heat is another crucial element. In traditional Inuit families, everyone would sleep close together, sharing body warmth. A family of 4 can raise the temperature inside a well-built igloo by as much as 40 degrees above the outside temperature just through body heat. That's enough to bring negative 84 degrees up to a still freezing but much more manageable negative 44 degrees. Preparation for sleep begins hours before actually lying down. Eating a high-fat meal before bed is essential. The digestion process generates heat from within. Traditional meals might include raw fish or meat, often frozen and eaten in thin slices. Your mom might have told you not to eat before bed, but in the Arctic, that midnight snack could save your life. Even the way clothes are stored matters. Inuit people would often sleep with tomorrow's clothes tucked between their body and their sleeping furs, warming them for the morning. Nothing ruins a day faster than putting on clothes that are cold enough to shatter. These physical preparations are essential for survival, but they're only part of the story. Keeping your body warm is crucial, but there's more to falling asleep in extreme cold than just layers and lamps. Your body might be wrapped in layers of caribou fur, but what about your mind? When the temperature drops to negative 84 degrees, your brain can become your worst enemy or your greatest ally. Most of us panic when the office thermostat is set below 70 degrees. Imagine your brain's reaction when it's cold enough to freeze antifreeze. In extreme cold, most people experience an immediate panic response. The heart races, breathing becomes shallow, and muscles tense up. This is your body's natural fight or flight response kicking in. It's like your brain is screaming, "We're all going to die," while dancing around waving its metaphorical arms. But this panic actually makes you colder by sending blood away from your extremities and causing you to breathe faster, losing precious body heat with each exhale. The Inuit have mastered a different approach. Through generations of living in the Arctic, they've developed mental techniques that keep panic at bay. Their first trick? Controlled breathing. By taking slow, deep breaths, they avoid the rapid breathing that comes with panic. Each slow exhale releases less heat, and the measured breathing helps calm the mind. When you're trying this at home and your partner asks why you're breathing like you're in a yoga class while getting ready for bed, just tell them you're practicing ancient Arctic survival techniques. Studies have shown that controlled breathing can lower heart rate by up to 20 beats per minute in stressful situations. For the Inuit preparing to sleep in extreme cold, this means less heat wasted through rapid heartbeats and more warmth preserved for the long night ahead. Focus plays a crucial role too. Inuit hunters and travelers often practice a mental technique where they concentrate on generating heat in specific parts of their bodies. Brain scans have revealed that people who practice this kind of focused attention can actually increase blood flow to targeted body areas by up to 15%. It's like having an internal thermostat that you can adjust with your thoughts. No smart home system required. The Inuit approach to cold includes accepting rather than fighting it. Many describe a mental shift that happens after years in the Arctic. Instead of experiencing cold as pain, they experience it simply as a sensation. This psychological reframing helps prevent the stress response that makes cold feel worse than it actually is. This mind over matter approach isn't just folklore. Researchers have documented that experienced Inuit people shiver less than newcomers to the Arctic at the same temperatures. Shivering, while helpful for generating heat, burns valuable energy and can disrupt sleep. By training their bodies to respond differently to cold, the Inuit conserve energy when it matters most. Another key mental technique involves what modern psychologists might call positive visualization. Before sleep, many Inuit focus their thoughts on warmth and comfort rather than the deadly cold outside. They might recall memories of summer days or imagine the heat from a seal oil lamp spreading throughout their bodies. This mental practice helps trigger the relaxation necessary for sleep. The brain also adapts to regular cold exposure. People who live in extremely cold environments for extended periods develop changes in their nervous systems. Their blood vessels don't constrict as severely in response to cold, allowing more warm blood to reach the extremities. Your toes might still feel like popsicles on your first Arctic night, But give it a few years and they'll merely feel like slightly chilled carrot sticks. It's the world's most uncomfortable 5-year plan. Cold adaptation even extends to sleep itself. The brain waves of Arctic dwellers show different patterns during sleep in cold environments compared to people from warmer climates. They tend to fall asleep faster and reach deeper sleep stages more quickly, allowing them to get restorative rest even in challenging conditions. Perhaps most impressively, many Inuit elders report developing an intuitive sense of when cold becomes truly dangerous versus merely uncomfortable. This sixth sense helps them know when to seek additional warmth and when they can safely rest despite the biting chill. It's like having a built-in weather app, except it actually works and doesn't drain your battery. But even with a calm mind and a warm body, you still need somewhere to actually lie down. When most people hear igloo, they picture a basic dome of ice blocks where people somehow survive despite being surrounded by frozen water. It's like assuming a 5-star hotel is just a pile of bricks with a door. The reality of an igloo is far more impressive. It's actually one of the most cleverly designed shelters humans have ever created. Let's start with the building material itself. Snow might seem like a terrible insulator since it's, well, frozen water, but freshly fallen snow contains up to 95% trapped air, and air is an excellent insulator. When properly packed, snow creates an insulating layer that traps heat while blocking wind. A well-built igloo can be as much as 40 degrees Fahrenheit warmer inside than the outside temperature without any heating source at all. The dome shape isn't just for looks, it's engineering brilliance. The curved walls minimize the surface area exposed to the cold while maximizing interior space. This design also creates natural air circulation that helps maintain temperature without letting in the bitter cold. When warm air rises inside the igloo, it cools along the walls without creating drafts, keeping the heat flow smooth and comfortable. The entrance to a traditional igloo is another stroke of genius. It's not just a hole in the wall, it's a tunnel that dips below the level of the sleeping platform inside. This design takes advantage of a simple rule of physics. Cold air sinks. The cold air gets trapped in this entrance tunnel, creating a barrier between the frigid outside and the warmer interior. It's nature's version of those plastic strip curtains you see in restaurant freezers, except it actually works in negative 80-degree weather. Inside the igloo, the sleeping area is raised significantly above the entrance level. Since warm air rises, this elevated platform becomes the warmest spot in the shelter. The temperature difference between the entrance tunnel and the sleeping platform can be as much as 20 degrees. Some traditional igloos have multiple levels, with the highest reserved for sleeping. The interior walls of an igloo play an important role too. As body heat warms the inside, a thin layer of snow on the inner surface melts slightly and then refreezes, creating a layer of ice that further seals and strengthens the structure. This ice layer actually makes the igloo stronger over time. The longer it's inhabited, the more solid it becomes. Snow has another surprising quality. It blocks wind but allows some air exchange. This means carbon dioxide can escape, and fresh oxygen can enter without letting all the heat out. Modern houses need complex ventilation systems to achieve what an igloo does naturally. The slight porosity of packed snow creates the perfect balance of air exchange without creating drafts or losing too much heat. Traditional sleeping platforms inside igloos aren't the cold, hard ice slabs you might imagine. They're typically covered with layers of insulating materials. First, caribou skins with the fur facing down, creating air pockets for insulation. Then additional furs for comfort with the hair facing up. A family of 4 sleeping on such a platform can raise the interior temperature just through body heat to a relatively comfortable 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which feels downright balmy when the alternative is negative 84 outside. Light comes from stone lamps called kulic that burn seal or whale oil. These aren't just for illumination. They add heat without producing much smoke or using up too much oxygen. The lamps are designed with a specific slope that controls the oil flow to the moss wick, providing steady, efficient burning. In a world before LED light bulbs and smart thermostats, the Inuit had created their own version of both, with the added bonus of never needing batteries or Wi-Fi updates. The size of a traditional igloo varies, but many are about 10 feet high at the center and 12 feet in diameter, providing about 100 square feet of usable space. That's small by modern standards, but perfectly sized to retain body heat efficiently. Some larger ceremonial igloos could house up to 20 people and span 20 feet across, while emergency shelters for 1 or 2 people could be built in under an hour. But the Inuit don't always have the luxury of a perfectly constructed snow dome. Sometimes the conditions are far more challenging, forcing them to rely on other survival skills when the comfort of an igloo is nowhere to be found. Hunters tracking animals, travelers caught in sudden storms, or people moving between seasonal camps often face the challenge of resting in the open tundra, where temperatures can plummet to negative 84 degrees Fahrenheit. This is what camping enthusiasts would call a bit chilly right before they rush back to their heated RVs. In these extreme situations, the Inuit turn to emergency shelters that can be created quickly. Snow caves rank among the most effective options. Unlike igloos, which require carefully cut blocks, a snow cave can be dug into any suitable snowdrift in about 30 minutes. The process begins by finding a deep drift, ideally on the lee side of a hill where wind has packed the snow firmly. The entrance tunnel follows the same principle as an igloo's. It points downward, creating a cold sink that prevents warm air from escaping. Inside, a sleeping platform gets carved at a higher level than the entrance. A small breathing hole poked through the roof completes this emergency shelter. A well-made snow cave can be up to 50 degrees warmer than outside temperatures. Think of it as the world's coldest studio apartment. No monthly rent, but the commute is terrible, and the neighbors are mostly Arctic foxes who never bring anything to the potluck. When even a snow cave is impossible due to travel conditions or inadequate snow, the Inuit resort to more immediate options. One technique involves creating a simple windbreak by piling snow into a half-circle wall. This humble barrier can reduce wind chill factor by up to 25 degrees. Wind, after all, is often more dangerous than cold alone. Still air allows the body to maintain a thin layer of warmth around itself, but even a slight breeze strips this away. A person wearing adequate clothing in negative 40 degrees with no wind will lose heat much more slowly than someone in negative 20 degrees facing a 15 mesh wind. Sleep positions become critically important when outside. The Inuit typically curl into a tight ball, minimizing exposed surface area. They avoid sleeping directly on ice or frozen ground, which conducts body heat away hundreds of times faster than air. It's like trying to stay warm while hugging a refrigerator. Technically possible, but definitely not recommended for a good night's sleep. Instead, they create layers of insulation. First caribou hide with the fur down, then a sleeping mat of woven grass or moss, then more furs on top. Breathing techniques take on new importance outside. The Inuit practice breathing into their fur ruffs, the circular fur collars that surround their faces on traditional parkas. This traps warm breath near the face, preventing frostbite on delicate facial tissues. It's like having a built-in face mask that never fogs up your glasses. Another survival technique involves strategic placement of hands and feet. Fingers and toes are especially vulnerable to frostbite as they're furthest from the body's core heat. When sleeping outside, the Inuit tuck their hands into their armpits and curl their feet toward their center mass. If traveling with others, they often sleep back to back, sharing vital body heat. Emergency shelters sometimes incorporate natural formations. Rock crevices can block wind and retain body heat better than open spaces. Snow itself becomes a blanket. A light covering of fresh snow over the body provides insulation without being heavy enough to restrict movement or breathing. This technique can raise the microclimate around a sleeper by up to 15 degrees. It's the only situation where I'd like to be buried in snow is actually a reasonable bedtime request. The concept of sleep itself changes during extreme conditions. Rather than 8 continuous hours, the Inuit often adopt a pattern of shorter rest periods interspersed with movement. This approach, sometimes called Arctic napping, prevents the body from cooling too much during any single period of inactivity. Sleep cycles might last just 90 minutes to 2 hours before the person briefly moves around to generate new heat before resting again. One of the most impressive techniques involves using caribou hides. The hollow hairs in caribou fur create millions of tiny air pockets, providing exceptional insulation. A single adult caribou hide contains approximately 350,000 hollow hairs per square inch. When arranged properly with the fur facing the body, these hides can maintain a sleeping temperature differential of up to 60 degrees between the sleeper and the outside air. Mother Nature created memory foam long before humans thought of it, and hers doesn't lose its shape after a few years. Snow itself provides crucial information about safe places to rest. Different types of snow create different sleeping conditions. Powder snow makes poor shelters, but excellent insulation when packed around a sleeper. Wind-packed snow creates better structural strength for caves and windbreaks, but provides less insulation. The Inuit can identify dozens of snow types, each with specific properties and uses for emergency shelter. Through these ingenious techniques, the Inuit survive conditions that would quickly become lethal to the unprepared. But there's another crucial element to sleeping in extreme cold. Food isn't just fuel for activity. In the Arctic, it's your internal furnace. The Inuit approach to eating before sleep is completely different from what most of us practice. While modern health advice often suggests avoiding heavy meals before bed, in temperatures of negative 84 degrees, that midnight snack could save your life. In the Arctic, eating light isn't a diet choice. It's a potentially fatal error in judgment. The traditional Inuit diet is rich in fat, extremely rich. Up to 75% of their caloric intake comes from fat, primarily from marine mammals like seals and whales. This isn't just a preference, it's survival mathematics. Fat provides 9 calories per gram, while protein and carbohydrates provide only 4. When every calorie matters, fat is the clear winner. What nutritionists might call heart attack on a plate in Los Angeles is called not freezing to death tonight in the Arctic. Before sleeping in extreme cold, the Inuit deliberately consume high-fat foods. Muktuk, the skin and blubber of whales, is particularly prized. A 4-ounce portion of muktuk can provide up to 500 calories, mostly from fat. Your mom might have told you not to eat before bed, but in the Arctic, that's like telling someone not to wear a coat in a blizzard. The digestion of fat generates more heat than processing other nutrients. This phenomenon, called diet-induced thermogenesis, creates a warming effect that lasts for hours. Studies have shown that high-fat meals can increase metabolism by up to 30% for several hours after eating, creating a sustained internal heat source. It's like having a tiny furnace in your stomach that burns all night. Raw meat plays a crucial role too, though not in the way many people assume. While some Inuit foods are eaten raw, it's not because they can't be cooked. Raw meat, especially when frozen, requires the body to warm it to body temperature during digestion. This process draws on internal energy reserves, generating additional heat from within. It's basically borrowing your body's heating system to thaw your dinner, but the loan gets paid back with interest in the form of extra warmth. Perhaps the most famous example is akutak, sometimes called Eskimo ice cream. Traditional akutak combines animal fat, usually caribou, moose, or seal, with berries and occasionally snow. Despite the ice cream nickname, this isn't a dessert. It's serious survival food, providing slow-burning energy that keeps you warm throughout the night. Talk about a midnight snack with purpose. This ice cream doesn't give you a sugar rush. It keeps your blood from becoming an actual slushie. Protein timing also matters. The Inuit often consume protein-rich foods several hours before higher-fat options. This strategy takes advantage of protein's different metabolic timeline. Protein digestion peaks at around 3 to 4 hours after consumption, while fat metabolism continues for much longer. By staggering these nutrients, they create overlapping waves of internal heat production. Hydration before sleep requires a delicate balance. Drinking too much means potentially needing to leave the warmth of your sleeping area during the night. A dangerous proposition when temperatures drop below negative 60 degrees. Drinking too little leads to dehydration, which reduces the body's ability to regulate temperature. The solution? Many Inuit consume slightly fatty broths that provide both hydration and calories in one efficient package. Getting up to use the bathroom at night is inconvenient in your heated home, but in the Arctic, it's the world's most dangerous bathroom trip. Talk about motivation for bladder control. The timing of meals matters just as much as content. Eating approximately 2 hours before sleep gives the digestive system time to ramp up heat production just as the body is settling in for the night. This clever timing turns digestion into a natural hot water bottle that works from the inside out. Special foods are reserved for particularly cold nights. Seal blubber, with its high concentration of omega-3 fatty acids, isn't just calorie-dense, It also improves circulation to extremities, helping prevent frostbite during sleep. 2 ounces of raw seal blubber contains approximately 400 calories and enough fat-soluble vitamins to meet several days' requirements. These nutritional strategies complete the remarkable system of Arctic sleep. The Inuit approach combines layered clothing, well-designed shelters, mental techniques, strategic positioning, and carefully chosen foods, all working together to make the impossible possible. What outsiders see as miraculous, falling asleep quickly at negative 84 degrees, is simply the result of thousands of years of ingenious adaptation. The next time you complain about your chilly bedroom, remember there are people who would find it tropical. Your pre-bedtime diet might help your waistline, but in the Arctic, that fatty midnight snack might just save your life. You know it's a rough day when negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit counts as not too bad. But it gets worse. In winter, when the coldest night of the year arrives, temperatures in the Arctic drop to minus 70 degrees Fahrenheit. However, the Inuit still manage to stay warm and cozy. Their secret? It starts with building a cozy home out of frozen water. You might think building an igloo is just about stacking snow blocks like oversized Lego pieces, but there's actually some serious science behind these cozy ice domes. And trust me, when it's cold enough to freeze your words mid-sentence, you'll want to know how to build one properly. I once tried making a snow fort as a kid in Minnesota. Let's just say that sad pile of snow wouldn't have kept a penguin warm, let alone a human being. First things first, forget everything you learned from cartoons. You can't just roll up a giant snowball and hollow it out like some sort of snow cave hermit crab. The Inuit have perfected this art over thousands of years, and their method is pure genius. They start by finding the right snow. It needs to be hard and compact enough to cut into blocks. If you've ever tried building with powder snow, you know it's about as useful as trying to build a sandcastle with sugar. The perfect snow should be firm enough that when you step on it, your foot doesn't sink in more than an inch or two. It's like nature's version of construction-grade materials, except this stuff melts if you look at it wrong. And it all begins with the spiral. Each snow block is cut at a slight angle and placed in a gradually rising spiral pattern. It's like building the world's coldest game of Jenga, except if you mess up, you're not just losing a game, you're losing your warm shelter for the night. The blocks typically weigh around 50 to 60 pounds each, which means building an igloo is also a pretty decent workout. Who needs a gym membership when you can build houses out of ice? Each block needs to be carefully shaped with a snow knife, traditionally made from caribou antler or whalebone, though modern Inuit often use metal saws. The blocks are usually about 2 feet long, 1 foot high, and 8 inches thick, but as with any construction project, size can vary based on available materials and local conditions. A properly built igloo can be 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit warmer inside than the outside temperature. When it's minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is so cold that Fahrenheit and Celsius actually agree on how miserable it is, your igloo can maintain a relatively cozy minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit to 20 degrees Fahrenheit inside. Not exactly beach weather, but definitely an upgrade from freezing your eyelashes off. This temperature difference isn't just impressive, it's literally life-saving in the harsh Arctic environment. The secret to this remarkable temperature difference lies in the entrance design. Remember how your science teacher droned on about hot air rising and cold air sinking? Well, the Inuit put this principle to work by making the entrance tunnel lower than the living area. Cold air gets trapped in this cold sink like nature's version of a spam folder. It's there, but it's not getting in your way. The entrance tunnel, or tornak, is typically about 3 feet high and can be up to 10 feet long depending on how much protection you need from the wind. It's basically like having an Arctic version of a front porch, except instead of keeping salespeople out, it's keeping your precious warm air in. The sleeping platform is another clever feature. It's raised about 2 feet above the entrance level, putting you right in the warm air zone. It's like having a penthouse suite in an ice hotel, minus the overpriced minibar and fancy robes. This platform is usually covered with caribou hides, which provide crucial insulation from the cold snow beneath. Without this raised platform, you might as well be trying to nap in your freezer. Not exactly a recipe for a good night's sleep. But the real engineering masterpiece is in the details of how the blocks fit together. Each block is carefully shaped to lean slightly inward, creating that distinctive dome shape. The gaps between blocks are packed with loose snow, making the whole structure airtight. I once tried to build an igloo without properly sealing the gaps. Let's just say it felt like sleeping in a snow globe during a blizzard. The angle of the blocks is crucial. Too steep and they'll fall in, too shallow and they won't form a proper dome. It's like doing geometry homework, except your grade is measured in frostbite. The final touch is letting the interior heat up slightly so the inner surface glazes over. Your body heat and any cooking or oil lamp heat causes a thin layer of snow to melt and refreeze, creating a solid ice shell. This shell actually makes the igloo stronger and more insulated. It's like the igloo is wearing its own winter coat. The process is called sintering, and it transforms your snow block structure into a solid ice dome that's surprisingly strong. An experienced builder can actually climb on top of a finished igloo without damaging it, though I wouldn't recommend trying this at home or on your first igloo. One common rookie mistake is making the igloo too big. While it might seem nice to have room for a dance floor, bigger isn't better when it comes to igloos. The smaller the space, the easier it is to heat with just body warmth. The traditional size is just big enough for a family to sleep in, typically about 10 to 12 feet in diameter. Any larger, and you might as well be sleeping in an ice arena. A well-built igloo this size can comfortably shelter 4 to 6 people, though comfortable is relative when you're camping on ice. The whole process takes about 2 hours for experienced builders, though your first attempt might take significantly longer. My first igloo looked more like a frozen version of abstract art than a shelter. But hey, practice makes perfect, and in the Arctic, practice is pretty much mandatory. Now that we've got our igloo sorted out, let's talk about what to wear in weather that makes polar bears think twice about going outside. The Inuit's clothing system is so effective that modern Arctic explorers still copy it, though I doubt any of them look quite as stylish in their sealskin boots. And unlike modern gear that comes with a manual longer than a college textbook, traditional Inuit clothing works on simple principles that have kept people alive for thousands of years. The secret weapon in the Inuit winter wardrobe is caribou fur. And it's not just because it looks fancy. Each caribou hair is actually hollow, like tiny drinking straws filled with air. This creates an insulation system that puts your expensive synthetic jacket to shame. In fact, caribou fur is so effective that it provides about 5 times more warmth per inch than wool. That's right. While we're layering up with 3 sweaters and still shivering, caribou are out there living their best life in temperatures that would freeze your smartphone solid. A single square inch of caribou fur contains about 19,000 individual hairs, each one of them working as a tiny insulation tube. The traditional Inuit parka, or amauti, is a masterpiece of engineering that makes modern winter coats look like they were designed by someone who's never seen snow. It's made with 2 layers of caribou fur. The inner layer with the fur facing in, and the outer layer with the fur facing out. This might sound like overkill, but there's a method to this furry madness. The inner layer traps a pocket of warm air next to your skin, while the outer layer creates a windproof barrier that tells Arctic blasts to take a hike. The design is so effective that it can maintain a cozy microclimate around your body even when the outside temperature drops to minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Here's a fact that might surprise you. This 2-layer system is so effective that Inuit hunters sometimes had to be careful not to overheat while active. Yes, you read that right. Overheating in the Arctic. It's like having a portable sauna, except instead of relaxing with a face towel, you're tracking seals across the ice. The solution? Built-in ventilation flaps that can be opened to let out excess heat, making it the world's first climate-controlled clothing system. The hood of the parka is another feat of cold weather genius. It's designed to create a tunnel of warm air around your face, like a personal force field against the cold. Modern Arctic gear companies have tried to replicate this design, but they're basically selling knockoffs of a style that's been perfected over thousands of years. The hood actually creates a microclimate around your face where your breath warms the incoming air before you inhale it, preventing that painful feeling of breathing in Arctic air that feels like swallowing ice cubes. The hood also has a special feature for mothers. It can expand to carry a baby, keeping the little one toasty warm against mom's back. Talk about a baby carrier upgrade. This carrying pouch, called an amaut, keeps the baby at the perfect temperature while leaving mom's hands free for work. The Inuit kulics, the boots, make your winter boots look like bedroom slippers. They're made from sealskin, which is naturally waterproof and flexible even in a ridiculous cold. The soles are made from bearded seal skin, the toughest, most durable leather nature provides. These boots are so well designed that even at minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, your feet stay warm and dry. Modern boots with their fancy temperature ratings and battery-powered heaters? That's cute. The kulics have been keeping feet warm since before electricity was even a thing. The kulics have another clever feature. They're made slightly big to accommodate multiple layers of insulating socks. This creates air pockets that add extra warmth, unlike those tight-fitting fashion boots that squeeze your toes until they feel like frozen cocktail wieners. The traditional design includes a liner made from dried grass or fur, which wicks away moisture better than any high-tech synthetic material. When your feet sweat in minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit weather, you really don't want that moisture hanging around. It's like having tiny ice packs strapped to your feet. Mittens are another area where the Inuit showed they weren't messing around. While modern outdoor companies debate the merits of different finger configurations, the Inuit went straight for the nuclear option: seal skin mittens with fur linings. Your fingers stay together like a bunch of penguins huddling for warmth, which is way more effective than separating them in gloves. A pair of traditional Inuit mittens can keep your hands warm in temperatures that would make a thermometer curl up and cry. All these clothing items work together as a system. The parka's hem overlaps the pants, the mittens have extra long cuffs that extend up your forearms, and the boots rise high enough to prevent any gaps. It's like wearing a suit of armor against the cold, except instead of protecting you from swords, it's protecting you from turning into a human popsicle. Every piece is designed to overlap and create a complete seal against the weather. Modern Arctic gear might come with fancy tags showing temperature ratings and high-tech material names, but most of it is just trying to copy what the Inuit figured out generations ago. The main difference? Traditional Inuit clothing actually gets warmer the colder it gets, as the fur becomes more efficient at trapping air. Your expensive synthetic jacket can't make that claim. Of course, staying warm in all this gear requires serious energy. You can burn up to 6,000 calories a day just trying to stay warm. And when you're burning that many calories, you need some serious fuel to keep going. The average person living in a temperate climate needs about 2,000 calories a day. But try that diet in the Arctic, and you'll be running on empty faster than a smartphone in cold weather. Inuit traditionally consume between 6,000 and 10,000 calories daily during the coldest months. That's like eating 5 large pepperoni pizzas every day, except their menu looks quite different. What's even more remarkable is that they maintain excellent health on this diet, despite it breaking pretty much every rule in modern nutrition books. Let's talk about fat. Not the kind you're trying to lose at the gym, but the kind that keeps you alive when it's cold enough to freeze spit before it hits the ground. Seal blubber, whale fat, and fish oils aren't just food for Inuit people. They're premium Arctic survival fuel. A pound of seal blubber packs about 4,500 calories. That's more than 2 days' worth of energy for someone living in Miami, but barely enough for a day when you're battling Arctic temperatures. The fat from marine mammals is also rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which help prevent blood vessels from constricting in cold weather. It's like natural antifreeze for your circulatory system. Modern nutritionists would probably have a heart attack looking at the traditional Inuit diet. It's basically the exact opposite of every food pyramid you've ever seen. But here's the kicker. Studies of traditional Inuit communities show remarkably low rates of heart disease. Scientists were so baffled by this that they coined a term for it: the Inuit paradox. Turns out Mother Nature knows more about nutrition than your average Instagram health guru. Research has shown that their genetic makeup has actually adapted over thousands of years to efficiently process these high amounts of animal fats. Raw meat plays a starring role in this Arctic menu, and not just because building a cooking fire inside an igloo is trickier than teaching a polar bear to juggle. Raw meat, especially when frozen, retains nutrients that cooking destroys. Vitamin C, for instance, typically associated with fruits and vegetables, is present in raw meat, especially in the liver and skin of marine mammals. One piece of raw seal liver contains more vitamin C than 6 oranges. Try explaining that to your local smoothie shop. The practice of eating raw meat also saves precious energy, both the fuel needed for cooking and the body heat you'd lose while gathering and burning it. The Inuit practice of eating raw meat has earned them some strange looks from outsiders over the years. European explorers were particularly squeamish about it, right up until they found themselves struggling to survive in the Arctic with their civilized eating habits. Nothing changes your mind about raw seal quite like watching your canned beans freeze solid. Many early Arctic explorers actually died from malnutrition because they refused to adopt local eating practices. Talk about fatal stubbornness. Even the way food is stored and prepared is a lesson in Arctic ingenuity. Fish and meat are often aged in specific ways, not because they forgot about it in the back of the icebox, but because controlled aging makes certain nutrients more accessible. Take kiviak, for example. Small birds fermented in seal skin. It sounds like something you dare your friend to eat, but it's actually a crucial source of nutrients during the dark winter months. The fermentation process breaks down proteins and fats into more easily digestible forms, while also creating a food source that can last for months without additional preservation. Speaking of winter, timing your meals becomes crucial when you're living in temperatures that make penguins look tough. Eating a big meal before bed isn't just allowed, it's essential. Your body burns through huge amounts of energy trying to stay warm while you sleep. Without enough calories in your system, you might wake up to find yourself with an energy level hovering somewhere between hibernating bear and frozen lottery ticket. Traditional Inuit knowledge recommends eating the fattiest portions of meat before sleeping. It's like putting another log on the fire before bed. Let me give you some statistics. In extremely cold conditions, up to 80% of the calories you consume go directly to maintaining body temperature. That's like running a space heater that eats all your groceries. Traditional Inuit hunters know this well. They'll often eat several pounds of meat in a single sitting after a hunt. A typical meal might include 2 to 3 pounds of meat, easily exceeding 3,000 calories. Your average food influencer would faint at the sight, but when you're burning calories faster than a furnace burns coal, you need all the energy you can get. The variety in an Inuit diet would surprise most people. We're talking about seals of at least 6 different species: whales, fish, caribou, muskox, birds, eggs, and even seasonal berries and seaweed when available. Each animal provides different nutritional benefits. Seal blood, for instance, is rich in iron and helps prevent anemia. Whale skin, called Muktuk, is packed with vitamin D, crucial during those long, dark winter months when the sun takes an extended vacation. Fish eyes and organ meats might not make it onto your dinner party menu, but they're packed with vitamins A and D, essential for survival in the Arctic. There's even a social aspect to this high-calorie diet. Sharing food is deeply woven into Inuit culture. After a successful hunt, the catch is divided among community members. It's like a potluck dinner, except instead of bringing casseroles, everyone gets a share of the day's hunt. This sharing system ensures survival for the whole community, because trying to get through an Arctic winter solo is about as smart as using an ice cube for a pillow. The distribution of food follows traditional customs that ensure everyone, especially elders and children, gets the nutrients they need to survive. But consuming all these calories isn't just about sitting around and eating. The Inuit way of life demands constant movement. Because in the Arctic, staying still too long isn't just boring, it's dangerous. Your fancy fur clothing and well-stocked food supply won't help much if you let yourself become a human icicle. You might think the best way to conserve energy in extreme cold would be to curl up and minimize movement, like a bear hibernating. But try that approach in the Arctic, and you'll end up as the world's least impressive ice sculpture. The Inuit have developed an intricate system of constant motion that's kept them alive in temperatures that would freeze a penguin's tears. The human body has a fascinating way of responding to cold. It starts reducing blood flow to your extremities almost immediately. While this helps protect your vital organs, it also means your fingers and toes become about as useful as popsicles if you don't keep moving. That's why you'll never see an Inuit hunter sitting still for hours waiting for prey. They're always in motion, even if it's just shifting weight from foot to foot or flexing their fingers. These micro movements might look insignificant, but they're the difference between keeping all your fingers and having to learn to count to 8. In fact, in temperatures below minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, standing still for just 30 minutes can lower your core body temperature by up to 3 degrees. That might not sound like much, but considering normal body temperature is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit and hypothermia kicks in at 95 degrees Fahrenheit, Those 3 degrees are the difference between writing your next social media post and becoming an emergency room statistic. Studies of traditional Arctic hunters have shown that they instinctively move about every 3 to 4 minutes, even during supposedly still activities. Movement generates heat through a process called thermogenesis, which is just a fancy way of saying your muscles produce warmth when they work. Even small movements can make a big difference. Traditional Inuit hunters often perform a series of subtle exercises while waiting or watching for game. Rolling shoulders, wiggling toes inside boots, or doing small knee bends. It's like a very understated Arctic workout routine, except instead of trying to get summer ready, you're trying not to freeze solid. Research has shown that these small movements can increase local temperature in extremities by up to 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The clever thing about Inuit movement strategies is how they're woven into everyday tasks. Take igloo maintenance, for example. There's always something that needs fixing, checking, or adjusting. A small crack that might be a minor annoyance in warmer climates becomes a serious issue when the temperature drops below freezing. It's like having a to-do list where every item ends with, or freeze to death. That constant need for repairs and adjustments keeps people moving, which keeps them warm. Traditional communities actually build these maintenance tasks into their daily routines, creating a natural exercise program disguised as household chores. Inside the igloo, you'll rarely find anyone lounging around like it's a weekend on the couch. There's gear to repair, clothes to adjust, food to prepare, and various other tasks that require constant movement. Even activities that might seem sedentary, like sewing or preparing skins, involve enough small movements to maintain circulation. It's probably the world's most productive fidgeting. Every movement serves both a practical purpose and helps maintain body heat. The layout of traditional living spaces is actually designed to encourage this constant motion. The traditional Inuit way of life actually builds movement into its very structure. Tools and supplies are often kept in different areas of the living space, requiring people to move around to access them. It's like having a kitchen where the fridge, stove, and sink are all in different rooms. Annoying in a modern house, but genius when you're trying to stay warm in the Arctic. This deliberate inconvenience might seem counterintuitive, but it's a time-tested strategy for survival. When it comes to larger movements, hunting provides plenty of opportunities for staying warm. Tracking animals across the ice requires a combination of quick bursts of activity and slower, more deliberate movements. But here's the trick. Even during those slow stalking moments, hunters maintain micro-movements to keep their blood flowing. It's a bit like playing a very cold game of freeze tag where freezing actually isn't an option. Studies of traditional hunting techniques have shown that experienced hunters can maintain their core body temperature even during hours-long stalking sessions through these specialized movement patterns. The Inuit have even developed specific techniques for emergency movement situations. If someone starts showing signs of becoming too cold, things like fumbling with simple tasks or slurring words, they immediately engage in a series of vigorous movements. These aren't your standard jumping jacks, though those would work too. They include activities like quickly removing and replacing outer layers of clothing, doing deep knee bends, or even wrestling with a companion. It's probably the only place on Earth where challenging someone to a spontaneous wrestling match is considered a safety procedure. Even sleeping involves movement strategies. The traditional raised sleeping platform isn't just about staying above the cold air that collects at floor level, it's designed to be just uncomfortable enough to make you shift position regularly during the night. Every time you move in your sleep, you generate a tiny bit of heat. It's like having a built-in alarm clock that reminds your body to keep its internal furnace running. These natural movements during sleep can generate enough heat to raise your local skin temperature by several degrees. Children in Inuit communities learn these movement patterns naturally through games and daily activities. They're taught to stay active without even realizing they're learning a crucial survival skill. It's basically the Arctic version of the floor is lava, except in this case, the stakes are a bit higher than just pretending to fall into imaginary molten rock. These traditional games often mimic adult activities while incorporating the constant movement needed for survival. But all this movement would be pretty challenging without a reliable source of light and heat. That's where the kulic comes in, the traditional seal oil lamp that's more than just a fancy candle. And unlike your scented wax warmers at home, this light source has kept people alive through countless Arctic nights. This ingenious device has been keeping Inuit warm and alive for thousands of years, and it puts our modern emergency heating systems to shame. Unlike the electric heater in your garage that trips the circuit breaker at the worst possible moment, the kulic never fails as long as you've got seal oil and a bit of know-how. The genius of the kulic starts with its fuel source. Seal oil isn't just any old fuel, it's nature's answer to premium gasoline for Arctic survival. When burned, it produces a clean, nearly smokeless flame that gives off just the right amount of heat without turning your igloo into a sauna or, worse, melting it. The oil comes from rendering seal blubber, a process that requires patience and skill. Too hot and you'll burn the oil. Too cool and you'll be waiting until the next ice age for your fuel. Traditional kuliks are carved from soapstone, which isn't just about looking pretty. Soapstone has amazing heat retention properties. It absorbs heat from the flame and releases it slowly into the igloo, acting like a tiny radiator. The bowl is usually crescent-shaped, sometimes reaching 2 feet in length for larger living spaces. That's not random either. The curved shape helps distribute heat more evenly throughout the space, kind of like how a curved mirror spreads light. Here's an amusing bit of Arctic engineering. The wick in a kulic isn't your standard candle wick. It's usually made from Arctic cotton grass or moss, carefully prepared and arranged along the edge of the lamp. The real trick is in how you manage these wicks. They need constant attention, like a temperamental celebrity. Too long and they'll smoke, too short and they won't draw up enough oil. The traditional tool for wick management is called a tasik, and using it properly is an art form passed down through generations. It's like being a DJ, but instead of mixing tracks, you're adjusting flames to keep everyone alive. Temperature control with a kulic requires skills that would make a master chef jealous. Want it warmer? Add more moss wicks or extend the existing ones. Need to cool things down? Trim the wicks or move them closer together. It's the world's oldest thermostat, and it never needs batteries. Studies have shown that an experienced user can maintain a temperature variance of just 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit using these techniques. Try getting that kind of precision from your home heating system. The multitasking abilities of the kulic would put any modern appliance to shame. Need to dry your mittens? Hang them nearby, but not too close. You don't want them to start smoking. Melting snow for drinking water? There's a specific spot above the flame that's perfect for that. Cooking dinner? Different heights above the flame provide different temperatures. It's like having a combination space heater, stove, and clothes dryer, all running on seal oil. A well-maintained kulic burning at full capacity can raise the temperature inside an igloo by up to 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit above the outside temperature. During the darkest winter months, when temperatures outside can hit minus 50 degrees Fahrenheit or lower, this temperature difference isn't just comfortable, it's the difference between life and death. And unlike modern heaters that guzzle electricity or fuel, a kulic can run for hours on just a couple cups of seal oil. The light from a kulic does more than just help you see where you put your mittens. The specific wavelength of light it produces has been found to have mood-boosting properties similar to modern light therapy lamps used to treat seasonal depression. Not bad for a stone bowl with some oil and moss, right? During the long, dark Arctic winter, this gentle, warm light helped maintain people's mental health long before anyone knew what seasonal affective disorder was. Maintaining a kulic is a serious responsibility. Running out of fuel isn't like flipping a circuit breaker back on. It could mean the difference between surviving the night or not. That's why traditional Inuit always kept multiple sealed containers of fuel ready, stored in ways that prevented freezing. They'd rather run out of anything else before running out of seal oil. It's like having a backup for your backup, except instead of saving computer files, you're saving lives. The smoke from a kulic also serves as an early warning system for igloo problems. If the flames start smoking more than usual, it might mean there's not enough ventilation, a potentially deadly situation in an enclosed space. The small hole at the top of the igloo needs to be kept clear for proper airflow, and the behavior of the kulic flame helps monitor this. It's like having a primitive carbon monoxide detector, except this one also cooks your dinner. After a long day of hunting and constant movement to stay warm, everyone needs a good night's rest. But sleeping in the Arctic comes with its own set of challenges, ones that would keep most people up all night. Good thing the Inuit figured out some clever tricks for catching Z's in the world's biggest freezer. The gentle glow of the kulic might make you sleepy, but getting proper rest in the Arctic requires more strategy than a chess grandmaster's tournament game. First rule of Arctic sleeping: never, ever sleep directly on the ground. That's about as smart as using an ice cube for a pillow. The Inuit figured out that even a few inches of elevation can make the difference between waking up refreshed and not waking up at all. The science behind this is simple but crucial. In temperatures below negative 30 degrees Fahrenheit, sleeping on the ground can drain your body heat faster than your smartphone battery in cold weather. The traditional sleeping platform in an igloo sits about 2 feet above the entrance level, and there's solid science behind this height. Cold air sinks like a rock in water, collecting at the lowest point of the igloo, conveniently right where that entrance tunnel is. Meanwhile, the warmest air rises to the exact height where people sleep. It's a natural temperature control system that would make modern HVAC engineers jealous. Tests have shown that this elevation can create a temperature difference of up to 15 degrees Fahrenheit between floor level and sleeping height. In practical terms, that's the difference between comfortable sleep and a very uncomfortable night. Bedding choices in the Arctic aren't about thread count or whether you prefer memory foam. The Inuit traditionally use caribou furs for bedding, and they're particular about how they use them. The furs are layered with the hair pointing upward on the bottom layer and downward on the top layer. This isn't just being picky about fur direction. It creates tiny air pockets that trap heat better than any expensive camping sleeping bag. A good caribou fur sleeping setup can maintain warmth in temperatures as low as negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and you won't have to worry about the battery dying like you do with those heated blankets. Each layer of fur contains thousands of hollow hair fibers, creating multiple insulating air chambers. Speaking of temperature ratings, traditional Inuit bedding has been tested by modern scientists and found to have an R value higher than most modern sleeping bags. A properly prepared caribou skin provides an R value of about 8 per inch thickness. Compare that to your typical synthetic sleeping bag with an R value of 5, and you'll understand why indigenous knowledge beats modern technology in this case. A well-made traditional bed using multiple layers can achieve an R value of up to 40, better than most house walls. One crucial aspect of Arctic sleeping arrangements is the buddy system. Sleeping alone might sound peaceful, but in the Arctic, it's about as smart as going skiing in a swimsuit. Traditional sleeping arrangements often involve families or hunting groups sleeping close together. Body heat is a valuable resource when it's cold enough to freeze your eyelashes together. The Inuit understood something that modern campers often forget. In extreme cold, personal space is less important than survival. A group of people sleeping together can raise the local temperature by several degrees through shared body heat alone. The sleeping position itself matters more than you might think. The common practice of sleeping curled up isn't just about being cozy, it's about maximizing heat retention. By curling up, you reduce the surface area exposed to cold air by up to 20%. The traditional Inuit sleeping position often involves tucking your nose and mouth into your chest area, creating a small pocket of warm air to breathe. It's like having a built-in scarf that never falls off. This position also protects facial extremities from frostbite during sleep. Moisture management during sleep is another critical factor that the Inuit mastered long ago. Sweating during sleep can be deadlier than not having enough warmth. Wet clothing or bedding can freeze, turning your cozy sleeping spot into a personal icebox. The caribou fur bedding naturally wicks moisture away from the body, while the carefully maintained ventilation hole at the top of the igloo allows that moisture to escape. It's a sophisticated humidity control system that doesn't need electricity or batteries. Each caribou hair is not only hollow, but also has a waxy coating that helps repel moisture while maintaining insulation properties. Studies of traditional Inuit sleep patterns during the dark winter months show they typically got 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep, despite the extreme conditions. The combination of physical activity during the day, proper nutrition, and their refined sleeping setup created better sleep conditions than many modern city dwellers experience in their temperature-controlled bedrooms. The natural light from the kulic, the sound of wind outside, and the secure feeling of a well-built shelter all contributed to this healthy sleep pattern. The preparation for sleep follows a careful routine that's been refined over thousands of years. Before bed, hunters would often perform a series of subtle exercises to generate just enough heat to warm their sleeping spot without causing sweating. They'd also check their clothing and bedding for any snow or ice that might have accumulated. Finding a chunk of ice in your bed is way worse than finding a pea under your mattress. This bedtime routine also included adjusting the kulic's flame to maintain the right temperature through the night. Morning wake-up routines were equally strategic. Instead of jumping up like you might at home when the alarm goes off, Arctic dwellers would gradually increase their movement while still under the warm furs. This allowed their muscles to warm up slowly and prevented the shock of going from warm sleep to cold air too quickly. It's like having a built-in snooze button that actually serves a survival purpose. The whole process could take 15 to 20 minutes, but this gradual transition helped prevent cold-related injuries and maintained energy for the day ahead. Of course, waking up is just the beginning of another challenging day in the Arctic. Getting from your cozy sleeping platform to actually starting your daily tasks requires its own set of carefully developed strategies. The first task of every Arctic morning, a full-body check for frostbite. Because nothing ruins your day quite like discovering your toes have turned into ice cubes overnight. It's the world's least fun game of hot and cold, except in this case, you're desperately hoping for warm and normal colored. The Inuit developed a systematic approach to these morning health checks that modern doctors find impressive. Each finger and toe gets a thorough inspection, checking for any whitish-gray patches or numbness. You might complain about your morning routine, but at least you don't have to count your fingers every day to make sure they're all still working. Research has shown that catching frostbite in its early stages can prevent tissue damage 90% of the time, which explains why this check is priority number one. Temperature management starts the moment you stir. The air in your sleeping area might be a toasty minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit thanks to that carefully positioned sleeping platform, but just a few feet away, it could be minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit or colder. Moving too quickly is like jumping into a frozen lake, shocking and potentially dangerous. The traditional wake-up process takes about 15 to 20 minutes, with each movement carefully planned. Modern survival experts have actually adopted this gradual wake-up technique, calling it the Arctic warm-up protocol. Next comes what might be the most important maintenance check of the day: inspecting the igloo itself. Any small crack that formed overnight needs immediate attention. In temperatures below minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit, a crack the size of your thumb can let in enough cold air to drop the interior temperature by 20 degrees in under an hour. It's like having a leaky roof, except instead of rain getting in, it's air cold enough to freeze your breath. The morning repair routine often involves patching these cracks with fresh snow, shaped to fit exactly right. Think of it as the world's coldest game of Tetris. The kulic needs immediate attention too. The morning fire tender, usually the first person awake, has the crucial job of checking the flame and oil levels. Running out of fuel isn't like your phone dying, it's more like your phone dying while you're trying to call for help in the middle of nowhere. Traditional morning fire maintenance includes trimming the moss wicks and adding fresh seal oil. Studies of traditional kulic maintenance show that a well-maintained lamp can maintain stable temperatures for up to 16 hours on just a cup of seal oil. Getting dressed in the morning takes on new meaning when your clothes might be frozen stiff. The trick is to store essential items like boots and mittens in strategic spots where they stay warm enough to remain flexible but cool enough to prevent sweating when you put them on. Ever tried to put on a frozen boot? It's like trying to slide your foot into a concrete block. The Inuit solved this problem by keeping their boots elevated near, but not too near the kulic overnight. Breakfast preparation starts while you're still bundled up. In the coldest parts of winter, this might mean chipping off pieces of frozen meat or fish that were stored in the ice house, nature's freezer. The morning meal needs to pack enough calories to fuel hours of physical activity in extreme cold. We're talking about 2,000 to 3,000 calories just for breakfast. Your bowl of cornflakes suddenly seems pretty wimpy in comparison. Speaking of food, morning is also when you check your supplies. Running low on seal oil or meat isn't like forgetting to buy milk. It's a potential emergency. Traditional Inuit families kept detailed mental inventories of their food stores, knowing exactly how many days of supplies they had left. This morning inventory check was more important than checking your email or social media feed. Though, admittedly, the Arctic has significantly fewer cat videos to distract you. Water preparation is another crucial morning task. Since you can't just turn on a tap unless you want an icicle, morning means melting snow or ice for drinking water. The process requires careful attention. Melting too much wastes precious fuel. Too little leaves you dehydrated. The average person needs about a gallon of water per day in the Arctic, and smart water management in the morning can make the difference between having enough and running dry. The morning gear check is like preparing for a spacewalk. Every piece of equipment needs to work perfectly because there's zero margin for error. Hunting tools, navigation aids, and repair materials all get inspected before heading out. A broken spear or torn sealskin line might mean the difference between a successful hunt and going hungry. Your morning coffee machine breaking down seems pretty trivial in comparison. But what really keeps you going through these bone-chilling morning routines isn't just physical preparation. It's knowing how to stay mentally strong when the Arctic throws its worst at you. Physical preparation can only take you so far when you're living in temperatures that make penguins look overdressed. The real secret to Arctic survival sits right between your ears: mental toughness. The Inuit have mastered this psychological game better than any self-help guru could dream of, and they did it without a single motivational poster or morning meditation app. Living in the Arctic requires a completely different relationship with cold. While most of us treat cold weather like an annoying relative who overstays their welcome, the Inuit view it as a simple fact of life. Like gravity, except gravity doesn't try to freeze your nose off. Research into traditional Inuit psychology shows remarkably low rates of cold-related stress compared to modern Arctic visitors. When you've grown up in minus 50-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, a regular winter day feels about as threatening as a mild breeze. The first rule of Arctic mental toughness: don't panic. Panic burns precious energy faster than a teenager goes through phone data. The traditional Inuit approach to unexpected problems would make a meditation teacher proud. Stay calm, assess the situation, and act deliberately. Studies of experienced hunters show their heart rates barely increase, even in dangerous situations. Meanwhile, modern Arctic visitors often show stress responses to simple tasks like getting dressed in cold weather. Humor plays a surprisingly crucial role in Arctic survival. The Inuit have a rich tradition of using jokes and storytelling to maintain morale during the darkest, coldest months. These aren't just dad jokes, though. Those exist too. They're a sophisticated coping mechanism. Psychological studies have found that laughter actually increases cold tolerance by up to 10%, which might explain why Inuit humor often focuses on turning challenging situations into something to laugh about. Time perception gets a complete makeover in the Arctic. That rushing around we do in modern life, up here it's as useful as a chocolate teapot. Traditional Inuit culture operates on what anthropologists call Arctic time, where patience isn't just a virtue, it's a survival tool. When you're waiting for a seal to surface through its breathing hole, getting antsy after 5 minutes could mean going home hungry. Some hunters have been known to wait motionless for hours, showing the kind of patience that would make a statue look fidgety. The Arctic also teaches you about controlling what you can and accepting what you can't. You can't make the temperature warmer or the day longer, but you can build a better igloo or prepare more thoroughly. This mindset has been studied by psychologists who found it remarkably similar to modern stress management techniques. The difference? The Inuit developed these strategies through necessity, not through reading self-help books or attending wellness seminars. Social bonds take on new importance when facing extreme cold. Traditional Inuit communities developed intricate support systems that would put modern social networks to shame. Everyone had a role, and everyone looked out for each other. Studies show that this social cohesion led to significantly better survival rates compared to early European expeditions that tried to maintain rigid hierarchies. Nothing builds team spirit quite like knowing your survival depends on working together. Memory training is another fascinating aspect of Arctic mental toughness. Without smartphones or GPS, traditional hunters memorize vast landscapes and their seasonal changes. We're talking about mental maps covering hundreds of square miles, including details about ice conditions, animal migration patterns, and safe travel routes. Modern memory researchers are still trying to figure out how they manage this level of detailed recall. It's like having Google Maps in your head, except this version works when your battery dies. The ability to stay focused during monotonous tasks becomes crucial when one small mistake could be your last. Traditional skills like igloo building or seal hunting require hours of concentrated effort in conditions that would make most people want to curl up and cry. Research indicates that experienced Arctic dwellers can maintain focus for up to 50% longer than the average person when performing critical tasks in extreme cold. That fear management takes on a whole new meaning in the Arctic. Instead of trying to be fearless, which is about as smart as trying to be coldless, the Inuit developed a practical relationship with fear. They treat it like a weather report, useful information that helps you prepare, not an emotion that controls your actions. Young hunters learn to acknowledge their fear of the cold while preventing it from clouding their judgment, a skill that modern psychologists now recognize as a sophisticated form of emotional regulation. All these mental strategies work together like a well-oiled machine, helping people not just survive, but thrive in conditions that would send most of us running for the nearest heated building. It's proof that the human mind, when properly trained and supported by generations of wisdom, can adapt to almost anything. The Arctic might be the world's biggest freezer, but it's also the world's best classroom for learning what humans are truly capable of. When it's so cold the air hurts your face, survival isn't just about warmth, it's about eating smart. At negative 84 degrees Fahrenheit, every meal is a lifeline, and the Inuit have mastered the art of turning ice-cold nature into survival fuel. Here are 15 incredible foods that make life possible when the cold shows no mercy. First up, frozen fish. When temperatures plummet to a bone-chilling negative 84 degrees Fahrenheit, the last thing you might expect is someone enjoying a fish popsicle. Yet for the Inuit people of the Arctic, frozen raw fish isn't just a culinary choice, it's a brilliant survival strategy. In the harsh Arctic environment, cooking isn't always practical or possible. Fuel is precious. Hunting trips can last days, and sometimes the simplest solution is the most effective. Enter the kwakyu, fish frozen so solid you could literally use it as a hammer before dinner. Many outsiders wonder if it's too cold to eat, but that's exactly the point. The Arctic is nature's freezer, preserving fish in pristine condition without any fancy equipment. The Inuit slice thin, translucent pieces of this frozen fish and eat them like nature's potato chips. The freezing temperatures actually preserve not just the meat, but also the vital nutrients that would otherwise be lost in cooking. Here's something that might surprise you. This traditional practice has been preventing scurvy for generations. While early explorers suffered from vitamin deficiencies in the Arctic, the Inuit thrived by eating raw fish that contains vitamin C, a nutrient typically destroyed by heating. It's like nature's multivitamin hidden beneath scales and fins. The taste? Nothing like the processed fish from your grocery store. Fresh frozen Arctic fish has a clean, subtle flavor that intensifies as it thaws slightly in your mouth. The texture starts ice crystal crunchy, then melts into something surprisingly buttery. Think of it as sushi that fights back with a brain freeze. There's also a practical side to this frozen delicacy. When traveling across ice floes and temperatures cold enough to freeze breath midair, stopping to cook becomes a luxury. Grabbing a slice of frozen fish provides immediate protein and fat, the two nutrients your body desperately needs to generate heat. Speaking of heat, your body actually works harder to warm up the frozen fish once you eat it, which helps raise your core temperature. It's like doing internal jumping jacks without moving a muscle. This metabolic boost is one reason why raw frozen foods are so important in the Arctic diet. For thousands of years, Inuit have relied on this simple yet ingenious food preservation method. No refrigerators, no preservatives, no cooking. Just pure protein-rich sustenance that's ready whenever hunger strikes. In modern times, many Inuit communities still keep a supply of kwak in freezers, bringing ancient tradition into the contemporary world. This frozen fish might seem extreme to outsiders, but it's just the beginning of Arctic survival food wisdom. Now, we move to an even heartier Arctic staple, seal meat. This remarkable food source functions as a complete survival package in the harshest climate on Earth. Survival in sub-zero temperatures requires more than just any food. It demands something that can warm you from within. Seal meat delivers this internal furnace effect through its exceptional richness in iron and fat. The iron content in seal meat surpasses beef by almost 4 times, making it a remarkable blood builder in a place where green vegetables are virtually non-existent. Inuit hunters pursue seals with incredible patience, sometimes waiting for hours by a breathing hole in the ice. The reward justifies the wait. A single medium-sized seal provides approximately 40 pounds of meat and fat, enough to sustain a small family for several days in the merciless cold. The versatility of seal preparation demonstrates Inuit ingenuity. In its most straightforward form, it's eaten raw and frozen, so fresh it practically barks at you. When time allows for cooking, the meat transforms into a hearty stew. During summer months, strips are hung to dry in the Arctic wind, creating a jerky-like preservation method that lasts through long hunting journeys. Perhaps most fascinating is how nothing goes to waste. The liver contains more vitamin A than almost any other food source on the planet, enough to make a carrot feel completely inadequate. Even the blood becomes a nutritional powerhouse, mixed into soups to create a rich iron broth that combats the constant threat of anemia in a region with little sunlight. For generations, the Inuit have created a fermented version called igloos, carefully aging the meat in specific conditions. While the strong aroma might challenge an untrained nose, the fermentation process creates beneficial bacteria and preserves crucial nutrients. This preparation method represents thousands of years of food science knowledge developed without a single laboratory. Seal meat also produces a unique physiological response. After consumption, blood rushes to the digestive system to process the dense nutrients, creating a warming sensation throughout the body. Arctic travelers often consume seal meat before sleeping outdoors, as this biological central heating system keeps them warm through the night. The fat content deserves special recognition. At around 27% for some cuts, it provides the caloric density necessary when your body burns energy just to maintain its temperature. This fat isn't just fuel, it contains specific omega-3 fatty acids that protect against cold weather ailments and keep the brain functioning in environments where making mental mistakes can prove fatal. Modern nutritional analysis has confirmed what the Inuit knew through observation and tradition. Seal meat contains precisely the right combination of nutrients to survive extreme cold. It's not merely food, but a complete environmental adaptation strategy contained within a single protein source. As essential as seal meat remains, sometimes even more specialized fat is required to survive the cold. Another Arctic delicacy that might raise eyebrows among outsiders: Muktuk, the traditional combination of whale skin and blubber that serves as both food and medicine in the frozen north. The first encounter with Muktuk is memorable. 3 distinct layers create a visual pattern resembling a monochrome sandwich. The top layer consists of blackish skin, followed by a thin pink-white membrane, and finally, the prized blubber. This natural architecture isn't just visually interesting. Each layer contributes different nutrients and textures to the eating experience. Texture defines Muktuk more than flavor. The skin offers resistance like dense rubber that would make even the toughest beef jerky throw in the towel. The blubber beneath melts slowly, releasing a buttery essence that coats the mouth. First-time eaters often struggle with the combination. Chewing through the skin requires determination, while the blubber dissolves with surprising speed once warmed by body temperature. Nutritionally, Muktuk stands as a powerhouse. A 100-gram portion delivers more vitamin C than 5 oranges, solving the perennial Arctic challenge of obtaining this scurvy-preventing nutrient when plant sources are unavailable. The blubber contains vitamin D, critical in regions where winter brings months without sunlight. Evolution couldn't have designed a more perfect food for this environment if it tried. Harvesting Muktuk involves entire communities working together during whale hunts, an event surrounded by cultural significance and strict harvesting rules. After successful hunts, the Muktuk is divided among families according to traditional practices that have remained largely unchanged for thousands of years. Preparation methods vary across Arctic regions. Some communities prefer their Muktuk completely raw and frozen, like nature's most extreme popsicle. Others briefly boil it or pickle it in soy sauce, a more recent adaptation showing cultural exchange in action. Some modern Inuit households even cube and salt it before freezing, creating convenient snack portions. The digestive system reacts dramatically to Muktuk consumption. The high fat content triggers an intense metabolic response, generating significant body heat, a literal internal furnace effect that can feel like turning up your internal thermostat during winter months. This warming property makes Muktuk especially valuable before activities that expose people to extreme cold. Most remarkably, Muktuk provides a concentrated form of omega-3 fatty acids and antioxidants that protect brain cells against oxidative damage, particularly important in an environment where clear thinking can mean the difference between life and death. The brain protective qualities of these marine fats have been linked to remarkably low rates of certain cognitive disorders in traditional Arctic communities. For the Inuit, Muktuk transcends mere sustenance. It embodies cultural identity, survival knowledge, and community bonds forged through thousands of years of Arctic adaptation. Every chewy bite connects present-day eaters with their ancestors who developed these food traditions through careful observation and necessity. While Muktuk provides exceptional fat-based nutrition, sometimes muscle meat with different properties is needed for balanced health. That's when the focus shifts from the sea to the land. Enter the caribou, an essential Arctic staple that brings a different kind of nourishment to the table. Unlike the rich, fatty marine foods, caribou meat is lean, packed with protein, and crucial for maintaining strength. Think of it like adding vegetables to a meal, except these vegetables have antlers and know how to dodge a hunter. The relationship between Inuit and caribou stretches back thousands of years, recorded in cave paintings dating to over 8,000 years ago. These ancient artworks depict hunting scenes virtually identical to practices that continued into the 20th century, proving that when you find a good hunting technique, you stick with it longer than most people stick with their New Year's resolutions. Caribou meat stands apart from commercial beef in several important ways. Its deep red color reveals an extraordinary oxygen-carrying capacity, necessary for animals that migrate hundreds of miles across tundra. This translates to iron levels approximately 4 times higher than farm-raised cattle. If spinach made Popeye strong, caribou meat would have sent him to the moon. The lean meat contains just 2% fat compared to domestic beef's 15 to 20%, yet provides more omega-3 fatty acids than many fish species due to the caribou's diet of lichen and wild plants. When hunting succeeds, nothing goes unused. The tongue, considered a delicacy, contains specialized fats that provide energy during extreme cold. Heart and liver deliver concentrated B vitamins and iron. Even the stomach contents are sometimes consumed, providing predigested plant matter in a region where vegetation is scarce, essentially letting the caribou do your salad prep for you. Bones become tools, soup bases, and marrow reserves, nature's emergency food tubes stored inside leg bones. The most ingenious caribou preparation might be pemmican, the original survival food that predates modern energy bars by millennia. Traditional pemmican combines dried caribou meat with melted fat and sometimes berries. The resulting mixture can last for years without refrigeration while delivering complete nutrition in a compact form. When your modern protein bar expires after 6 months, remember that pemmican laughs at your puny shelf life. A single pound provides approximately 3,000 calories, enough energy to sustain hard physical work in freezing conditions for an entire day. Hunting these animals requires extraordinary skill. Caribou possess vision that can detect movement from over half a mile away. Their sense of smell alerts them to humans from even greater distances. Successful hunters must become nearly invisible, using techniques like crawling downwind for hours across rocky terrain, basically playing the world's most uncomfortable and high-stakes game of freeze tag. The reward justifies this patience. A single medium-sized caribou yields about 90 pounds of meat, enough to sustain a family for weeks. What makes caribou particularly valuable is its reliability through seasonal changes. While marine mammals might become inaccessible during ice transitions, caribou migrate in predictable patterns across land. Their hooves act as natural snowshoes, allowing them to travel across snowy landscapes that would trap other animals. Mother Nature gave them built-in snow equipment, while the rest of us have to shop at outdoor stores. The spiritual connection to caribou extends beyond mere sustenance. Many Inuit communities maintain hunting ceremonies honoring the animal spirit, reflecting a worldview that recognizes mutual dependence rather than simple resource extraction. This respect manifests in practices designed to ensure caribou populations remain healthy for future generations. While caribou provides essential proteins and minerals, sometimes a sweeter energy source helps maintain morale in the bitter cold. Now the question is, could dessert exist in the Arctic? The answer comes in the surprising form of akutak, traditional Inuit ice cream that bears little resemblance to the sugar-laden treats found in grocery store freezers. After a hearty meal of caribou, this unique concoction provides both pleasure and essential calories. Unlike conventional ice cream, a kutak contains no dairy whatsoever. The base begins with animal fat, traditionally from caribou, moose, or seal, whipped to a light, fluffy consistency. The original non-dairy alternative that would make modern health food stores jealous. This process transforms dense, calorie-rich fat into an airy texture remarkably similar to whipped cream, despite being made in an environment where cows are completely absent. The fat serves as more than just a creamy base. In temperatures reaching negative 64 degrees, consuming concentrated fats provides the body with slow-burning fuel necessary to generate warmth throughout the night. 1 cup of traditional akutak delivers approximately 800 calories, nearly half the daily requirement for someone engaged in strenuous cold weather activities. What makes akutak truly special is the addition of hand-picked Arctic berries. These small fruits perform botanical miracles by surviving in a climate where most plants cannot complete a full growth cycle. Crowberries, cloudberries, salmon berries, and blueberries bring essential vitamins to the mixture, along with natural sweetness. These berries survived the Ice Age while dinosaurs called it quits. Talk about resilience. Their intense flavor concentrates during freezing temperatures, creating bright bursts of taste against the rich backdrop of animal fat. The final ingredient might raise eyebrows: snow. Clean, freshly fallen snow gets folded into the mixture, creating frozen pockets throughout the dessert. This addition transforms the texture into something between ice cream and sorbet. Mother Nature's free ice crystals, zero processing required, making akutak becomes a community event, particularly during celebrations. The process begins with a clean container and freshly rendered fat. Women traditionally whip the fat by hand, a labor-intensive process taking up to an hour. The original arm workout before gyms were invented. Each stroke introduces air, creating a progressively lighter texture. The transformation seems magical. Dense, translucent fat gradually becomes white, fluffy, and doubled in volume. Family recipes passed down through generations, with each household maintaining slight variations that become points of pride. Some add a pinch of salt to enhance sweetness. Others incorporate different berry combinations based on seasonal availability. Modern adaptations might include a spoonful of sugar, though traditionalists maintain this addition diminishes the complex interplay of flavors. The nutritional timing of akutak is particularly clever. Consumed after protein-rich meals, the fat-berry combination helps slow digestion, extending the feeling of fullness during long winter nights. The berries provide vitamin C protection against scurvy, while the fat delivers fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, all critical for immune function in challenging environments. In a place where conventional desserts would freeze solid as rocks, a kutak remains just the right consistency for eating. Its ingenious composition reflects a deep understanding of available resources and nutritional needs. Ice cream that functions as survival food, making it possibly the only dessert that could save your life. While akutak satisfies the sweet tooth, the harsh Arctic environment demands constant adaptation in eating habits. The next remarkable food in the Inuit survival toolkit showcases how they mastered not just land hunting, but also the challenging waters beneath the ice. Arctic char stands as a testament to evolutionary perfection. These fish remain active in water temperatures just above freezing, conditions that would immobilize most other species. Their bodies produce a natural antifreeze compound that prevents their blood from crystallizing even when swimming in water cold enough to instantly numb human hands. Evolution gave these fish built-in thermal underwear while other species fled south. What makes Arctic char truly exceptional is their nutritional density. A single 6-ounce portion contains over 2,000 milligrams of omega-3 fatty acids, more than twice the amount found in farmed salmon. These essential fats maintain brain function and mood stability during the long, dark Arctic winter. The flesh also contains vitamin D, critical during months without sunlight, essentially providing liquid sunshine in each bite. The striking appearance of Arctic char adds unexpected beauty to the stark landscape. Their silver bodies feature pink to red spots along their sides, while their undersides blaze bright orange or red during spawning season. This vibrant coloration comes from carotenoid compounds that also serve as powerful antioxidants when consumed. Mother Nature created the only food that looks like a swimming sunset and functions as preventative medicine. Catching Arctic char demonstrates Inuit ingenuity at its finest. Traditional methods include jigging, a technique where a carved bone lure attached to sinew line gets manipulated through holes cut in ice up to 6 feet thick. The motion mimics injured prey, triggering the char's predatory instinct. More elaborate systems involve stone weirs, rock walls built in shallow areas that guide migrating fish into collection areas during seasonal runs. The versatility of Arctic char preparation showcases practical adaptability. During winter, the fish might be eaten completely raw and frozen, providing immediate sustenance during travel. Summer allows for air-drying strips on racks, creating a jerky-like product with concentrated protein that remains edible for months. Smoke preservation uses driftwood or dwarf willow to impart flavor while extending shelf life. Each method aligns perfectly with available resources and seasonal needs. Most impressive is the char's life cycle resilience. Some populations never leave freshwater, while others migrate between rivers and the Arctic Ocean, a journey that requires physiological transformations to handle the shift from fresh to salt water. This adaptability allows them to access multiple food sources, growing larger and fattier than strictly freshwater populations. These fish switch between salt and freshwater easier than most people switch between regular and decaf coffee. Arctic char fishing locations become closely guarded, knowledge passed through generations. The best spots combine favorable water conditions with predictable fish behavior, creating reliable harvests year after year. This geographical wisdom represents centuries of observation encoded into cultural memory, a map of survival not found on any paper chart. The relationship between Inuit and Arctic char extends beyond simple predator and prey. Traditional practices ensure sustainable harvesting, taking only what is needed and respecting seasonal cycles. This connection reflects a deeper understanding that survival depends on maintaining balance rather than maximum extraction. While Arctic char provides essential nutrients from water sources, the Arctic landscape also offers unexpected plant-based treasures. The tundra holds surprising treasures, berries that defy the harsh climate with remarkable stubbornness. These tiny fruits represent botanical miracles that contribute essential nutrients to the Inuit diet. How do plants produce fruit in a region where temperatures remain below freezing for 8 months of the year? Arctic berries employ extraordinary survival tactics. They grow incredibly close to the ground, rarely reaching more than 4 inches in height, to stay within the thin layer of air warmed by the sun-heated earth. Many species complete their entire 2-year growth cycle during the brief summer, storing energy during the first year and producing fruit in the second. These plants master the art of extreme time management better than any productivity guru. Crowberries stand among the hardiest Arctic fruits. These small black berries remain on plants throughout winter, actually improving in taste after freezing. The secret lies in their chemistry. Freezing causes cell walls to break down, releasing sugars that were previously locked away. This means Inuit can harvest them year-round, even digging through snow to find preserved fruit during winter months. 1 cup of crowberries contains more antioxidants than blueberries, with compounds specifically adapted to protect plant cells from the oxidative stress of extreme cold. Cloudberries present another Arctic wonder. These amber-colored berries resemble raspberries but contain 4 times the vitamin C content of oranges by weight. In a region where citrus fruits cannot grow, cloudberries prevent scurvy, a historic killer in northern climates. They grow in boggy areas, their roots extending deep into permafrost-adjacent soil. If superhero fruits existed, cloudberries would wear the cape, saving lives with their vitamin powers while surviving conditions that would kill most plants. Lingonberries add vibrant red splashes to the tundra. These relatives of cranberries contain natural preservatives that allow them to stay edible for months without refrigeration. Their tartness comes from benzoic acid, the same compound used in commercial food preservation but produced naturally by the berry. When food supplies dwindle in late winter, these self-preserving fruits provide crucial vitamin access. Traditional gathering techniques reflect generations of observation. Berries are collected using specialized combs carved from antler or bone, allowing harvesters to strip many berries quickly without damaging plants. Children learn these skills early, developing an eye for identifying the best patches. knowledge as valuable as hunting skills in ensuring community survival. The nutritional timing of berry consumption demonstrates deep ecological understanding. Inuit traditionally eat berries alongside fat-rich foods, a combination that maximizes fat-soluble vitamin absorption. Berries gathered during summer might be stored in seal oil, preserving them while creating a convenient winter food that combines multiple nutrient sources in a single package. Modern research validates traditional knowledge about these fruits. Studies have found Arctic berries contain unique compounds developed to protect plants from extreme conditions. These same compounds provide protective effects against inflammation and cellular damage when consumed. A single cup of mixed Arctic berries delivers more diverse phytonutrients than most commercial fruits, reflecting the competitive advantage of plants that must survive against overwhelming odds. The unexpected abundance of these berries challenges common assumptions about Arctic scarcity. During peak season, a skilled gatherer can collect several pounds per hour, enough to provide significant nutritional support. This productivity in such an extreme environment demonstrates nature's remarkable adaptability. While plant foods provide crucial variety, sometimes the Arctic diet requires more unusual protein sources. The Arctic skies offer another remarkable food source. The ptarmigan, a bird that refuses to migrate south despite the harsh conditions, becomes an important protein alternative when larger game proves elusive. What makes ptarmigan extraordinary is their complete commitment to Arctic living. Unlike most birds that flew south for winter, these determined creatures stay put year-round. Their secret weapon? A wardrobe change that would impress any fashion designer. During summer, ptarmigan wear mottled brown plumage that blends perfectly with tundra vegetation. As winter approaches, they molt into pure white feathers, becoming nearly invisible against snow. The only bird with a seasonal color scheme more reliable than department store holiday decorations. Their winter adaptations extend beyond mere appearance. Feathers cover their feet completely, creating natural snowshoes that distribute weight and provide insulation. Even their nostrils sprout tiny feathers to warm incoming air before it reaches sensitive respiratory tissues. At night, these birds dive into snowdrifts, creating insulated burrows where temperatures remain much warmer than the outside air. For Inuit hunters, tracking ptarmigan requires keen observation skills. Despite their excellent camouflage, these birds leave distinctive three-toed tracks in snow. Traditional hunting methods include snares set along commonly used pathways or hunting with bow and arrow. A successful ptarmigan hunt might yield 5 to 10 birds, each providing about 1 pound of meat, enough to supplement a family meal with valuable protein. The nutritional composition of ptarmigan meat reflects their Arctic adaptation. The flesh contains higher fat content than typical poultry, providing concentrated energy necessary for cold weather survival. This increased fat gives the meat a distinctive flavor that changes with the seasons. Spring ptarmigan tastes different from fall birds due to their seasonal diet shifts from buds and twigs to berries and insects. Nature's way of offering menu variety when restaurant options are limited to exactly zero. Every part serves a purpose beyond mere eating. The feathers stuff mittens and sleeping mats, providing insulation that mimics their original function on the bird. Hollow bones become needles or small tools. Even the crop, a pouch where birds store food before digestion, gets examined for edible plant matter, offering clues about which vegetation remains available during winter. Ptarmigan hunting carries seasonal considerations that demonstrate ecological awareness. Traditional practices limit spring hunting to protect breeding populations, focusing instead on fall harvest, when numbers peak following the summer reproductive season. This natural timing aligns with human needs. Ptarmigan reaches maximum weight in autumn, providing more substantial meals precisely when people begin preparing for winter. The digestive approach to ptarmigan differs from larger games. While caribou organs might be eaten immediately, ptarmigan are typically plucked, gutted, and cooked whole. The small size makes preservation challenging, so these birds are usually consumed within days of hunting, rather than stored long-term. One traditional preparation involves stone boiling, heating rocks in fire, then placing them in water-filled containers to cook the meat without requiring metal pots. Most fascinating is how ptarmigan adapt their diet to survive Arctic conditions. During winter, they subsist almost entirely on willow and birch buds, woody material most birds couldn't digest. Their specialized cecum, a digestive pouch, contains bacteria that break down fibrous plant material, essentially functioning as a fermentation chamber. These birds figured out how to digest tree branches, making them the ultimate recyclers in a land of scarcity. While ptarmigan provides valuable protein from the air, the Arctic coastline offers even tougher survival fare. Walrus hunting represents one of the most challenging and dangerous food acquisition methods in the Inuit diet, but the nutritional rewards justify the extraordinary risks involved. A full-grown walrus can weigh over 3,000 pounds, roughly the same as a small car, with 2-foot-long tusks capable of puncturing boat hulls or human hunters with equal ease. Hunting these massive marine mammals requires not just skill, but also exceptional courage. Traditional walrus hunters approach on ice edges or by small boats using specialized harpoons with detachable heads connected to sealskin floats. Once struck, the float prevents the animal from diving and disappearing. The toughness of walrus meat cannot be overstated. The dark red flesh has a density unlike any other food source, requiring special preparation techniques. If regular steak is a kindergarten reading assignment, walrus meat is a doctoral thesis written in concrete. This extreme density comes from myoglobin-rich muscle tissue developed for deep diving, where oxygen must be stored within the muscles for extended periods. The result is meat so dark it appears almost black, with a texture that challenges even the sharpest knives. Traditional aging methods transform this formidable protein source into something more manageable. Some communities practice controlled fermentation, burying walrus meat in the ground for weeks or months. The natural bacteria break down tough connective tissues while simultaneously preserving the meat. This process creates igloos, aged walrus with a distinctive flavor and softer texture. The taste proves divisive even among experienced Arctic food consumers, with complex flavors reminiscent of strong cheese or fermented plants. The real treasure of the walrus hunt is not the meat, but the fat layer. This dense blubber, often reaching 6 inches thick, represents one of the most concentrated energy sources in the Arctic food chain. A single square foot of walrus blubber contains approximately 12,000 calories, enough to fuel strenuous activity in freezing temperatures for multiple days. Mother Nature packaged a week's worth of energy into what looks like an oversized mattress topper. Specialized tools evolved specifically for walrus processing. The traditional ulu, a curved knife with a handle positioned above the blade, allows for the precise cutting motions needed to separate blubber from meat. Different-sized ulus serve distinct purposes, from the small examples used for detailed work to larger versions capable of processing blubber sheets. Even the organs provide specialized nutrition. The liver contains extraordinarily high levels of vitamin A, so concentrated that consuming more than a small portion can actually cause toxicity symptoms. This potent organ became traditionally divided among many community members, recognizing both its value and potential risk when consumed in larger quantities. Walrus hunting embodies community cooperation, requiring teams of 6 to 8 hunters working in perfect coordination. Success demands not just hunting skill, but extensive knowledge of ice conditions, walrus behavior, and weather patterns. A successful hunt can provide over 1,000 pounds of usable food, enough to sustain an extended family through weeks of harsh weather. The tusks themselves become valuable tools and trade items, carved into harpoon heads, ice picks, sled runners, or decorative items. These dense ivory structures represent the sustainable use of every available resource. From dangerous sea creatures to dinner to toolbox, talk about complete recycling. While walrus represents an impressive food source, the sea offers other hidden treasures beneath the ice. Gathering mussels during Arctic winter ranks among the most dangerous food collection methods on Earth. When sea ice reaches its maximum thickness of 5 to 6 feet, certain Inuit communities undertake the risky practice of mussel harvesting through ice holes. Timing becomes crucial. Hunters must work during the lowest tides when mussels become accessible beneath shoreline ice, yet they must finish before tides return to trap them under the frozen ceiling. The tools required remain remarkably simple despite the complex challenge. Traditional ice picks carved from walrus tusks or caribou antlers create initial holes. Modern metal tools have replaced some of these, but the technique remains unchanged. Once through the ice, specially designed rakes with long handles scrape mussels from rocks and pull them up through the opening. Why undertake such risk for shellfish? The nutritional profile explains their value. Arctic mussels contain extraordinary concentrations of iron, selenium, and vitamin B12, three nutrients particularly challenging to obtain during winter months. A single cup of raw mussels provides over 300 times the daily requirement of vitamin B12, addressing potential deficiencies that could otherwise cause dangerous neurological problems. These little shellfish pack more essential nutrients than a vitamin store during a going out of business sale. The harvesting process creates a rare sensory experience in the monochrome winter world. When pulled from frigid water, fresh mussels display vibrant orange flesh that stands in stark contrast to the white and blue landscape. This bright color comes from carotenoid compounds absorbed from the mussel's microscopic food sources. Mother Nature apparently decided the Arctic needed a pop of color during interior decorating. Taste sets these Arctic mussels apart from their warmer water relatives. The extreme cold produces uniquely sweet, clean-flavored meat without the mineral aftertaste often found in mussels from more temperate zones. Traditionally eaten immediately after harvesting, they deliver a burst of ocean flavor rarely experienced in the Arctic diet. Some Inuit describe the taste as capturing the essence of the sea itself, pure, untamed, and energizing. Knowledge of productive mussel beds passes down through generations. The best collection sites combine specific rock formations with current patterns that provide rich feeding for shellfish populations. Keeping these locations secret once protected communities during food shortages, as undisturbed mussel beds served as emergency food reserves when hunting failed. The shells themselves become valuable resources. Ground into powder, they provide calcium supplements when mixed with food. Intact shells serve as small containers, scraping tools, or cutting implements. Some traditional practices include using polished mussel shells as reflective surfaces for signaling across ice or detecting approaching bears by their shadow movement when placed at strategic points around camps. Sustainability concerns have always guided mussel harvesting. Traditional practices limit collection to what can be consumed within days, ensuring populations remain healthy for future harvests. Size selection focuses on taking only larger specimens, allowing smaller mussels to continue growing and reproducing. This natural conservation ethic developed long before modern sustainability concepts entered environmental discourse. While these seafloor treasures provide essential minerals from the sea bottom, the water column itself offers another unexpected food source. Kelp, the remarkable seaweed that thrives in frigid ocean temperatures, provides a surprising plant-based addition to the traditional Inuit diet that many outsiders never associate with Arctic nutrition. Kelp harvesting takes advantage of both seasons and tides. During the lowest spring tides, vast kelp beds become accessible along rocky coastlines. Winter collections involve breaking through ice near shorelines to pull up the leathery plants. Unlike many food sources that become unavailable during certain months, different kelp varieties remain harvestable year-round, creating a consistent source of vital nutrients when other options grow scarce. The nutritional profile of Arctic kelp explains its importance. These marine plants contain among the highest natural concentrations of iodine found in any food, critical for thyroid function and metabolism regulation in an environment where the body must generate significant heat. A mere 2 tablespoons of dried kelp provides over 4,000% of daily iodine requirements. It's basically a thyroid superfood wearing a seaweed costume. Texture defines the kelp eating experience. When dried, certain varieties become remarkably crisp, creating what traditional communities enjoyed as nature's potato chips long before processed snacks existed. The dried strips crack with a satisfying crunch before melting into a savory umami flavor profile. Other preparations involve boiling fresh kelp into soups, where it adds thickness and mineral richness to broths made from available animal proteins. Preservation methods showcase practical innovation. Strips hung on racks dry quickly in the constant Arctic winds, developing concentrated flavor as they shrink to a fraction of their original size. The dried product remains edible for months without additional processing. Some communities traditionally stored dried kelp in seal oil, creating a ready-to-eat combination that provided both fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins in a single food. Beyond direct consumption, kelp serves medicinal purposes in traditional practices. Certain varieties contain alginates, compounds that can bind with heavy metals in the digestive system and remove them from the body. Applied externally, kelp poultices help draw out infections and reduce inflammation from wounds. The iodine content naturally disinfects cuts and abrasions in an environment where more conventional medicines remain unavailable. Harvesting techniques demonstrate ecological awareness developed over generations. Traditional practices include cutting kelp above the holdfast, the root-like structure that anchors it to rocks, allowing the plant to regenerate rather than removing it completely. The timing of harvest considers growth cycles, focusing on mature plants while leaving younger specimens to develop. This natural sustainability approach ensures kelp beds remain productive indefinitely. Most remarkable is how kelp provides nutrients otherwise missing from the Arctic food chain. The plants concentrate minerals from seawater, including magnesium, potassium, and calcium that might be limited in land-based food sources. These minerals support nerve function, prevent muscle cramps, and maintain bone health during long, dark winters when vitamin D synthesis through sunlight becomes impossible. The versatility of kelp extends to practical applications beyond food. Dried kelp strips serve as wicks for oil lamps when other materials aren't available. The strong, flexible seaweed can be woven into storage containers or twisted into cordage for emergency repairs. This plant manages to be food, medicine, and hardware store, all while growing underwater in temperatures that would freeze most vegetables solid. While kelp provides essential minerals from the sea, sometimes the human body requires warming from within. Hot beverages play a crucial role in Arctic survival, with traditional Inuit teas serving as both medicine and morale booster in environments where temperatures can plunge to negative 64 degrees. Boiling water itself represents a significant investment in the Arctic. Fuel, whether animal fat in traditional oil lamps or precious driftwood, remains limited and must be used judiciously. The fact that Arctic cultures prioritize hot drinks despite this scarcity underscores their importance. The warming effect begins even before consumption, as hunters holding steaming cups warm their hands before the liquid warms their insides. Labrador tea stands as the most widely consumed traditional hot beverage across northern regions. Made from the leaves of wild-growing rhododendron plants, this tea contains compounds that increase blood circulation to extremities, a critical benefit when frostbite threatens. The leaves get harvested during brief summer months, dried thoroughly, and stored for year-round use. It's essentially nature's hand warmer in a cup, minus the weird chemical smell. The preparation method enhances both taste and medicinal properties. Leaves steep in water just below boiling temperature for 5 to 8 minutes. Any longer extracts bitter compounds that can cause stomach upset in high concentrations. Traditional knowledge specifies that the water should cool slightly from boiling before adding leaves, showing sophisticated understanding of extraction chemistry developed through observation rather than laboratories. Taste varies based on harvesting location and timing. Early summer leaves produce a lighter, more aromatic brew, while late-season harvests create deeper, earthier flavors. Unlike commercial teas that aim for consistency, these natural variations became seasonal markers, with each batch telling the story of when and where plants grew that year. For digestive support after consuming rich, fatty meals, Arctic communities prepare specific blends using available plants. Crowberry leaves added to hot water create a tannic brew that aids in digesting heavy proteins and fats. This traditional understanding of food pairing aligns perfectly with modern knowledge about tannins breaking down proteins during digestion. These traditional herbalists figured out food science before food science was cool. The social aspect of tea drinking cannot be overstated. Inside snow houses or other shelters, the passing of hot drinks creates moments of community connection during long, dark months. Traditional knowledge sharing often happens during these tea breaks, with elders passing critical survival information to younger generations over steaming cups. The ritual transcends mere hydration, becoming a framework for cultural continuity. During times of scarcity, creative alternatives emerge. Pine needles steeped in hot water provide surprising amounts of vitamin C, more than 5 times the concentration found in orange juice by volume. Willow bark tea serves as nature's aspirin, containing natural salicylates that reduce pain and inflammation after strenuous hunting trips. Each local region develops specialized blends based on available plants, creating distinct regional tea traditions across the Arctic. Modern research confirms what traditional knowledge long understood. Many Arctic plants contain concentrated bioactive compounds as part of their own survival adaptations to extreme conditions. These same compounds provide medicinal benefits when consumed, creating natural pharmacies accessible even in the harshest environment on Earth. These plants had to become tough to survive, and they passed that toughness on to anyone smart enough to brew them. While tea soothes and warms from within, sometimes more potent preservation methods become necessary for survival. Traditional Arctic fermentation stands as one of the most ingenious and admittedly aromatic food technologies ever developed. These powerful smelling preserved foods tell a story of survival through bacterial partnership. Fermentation begins with fresh catches at peak harvest seasons. Fish heads, particularly from salmon, get buried in grass-lined pits in the ground. These pits create the perfect environment for controlled decomposition, cool enough to prevent dangerous bacteria, but warm enough for beneficial microbes to thrive. After several weeks underground, the resulting product develops a pungent aroma that can be detected from remarkable distances. These foods announce their presence to your nose long before they introduce themselves to your taste buds. The nutritional logic behind fermentation proves impeccable. The process preserves vitamin content while making proteins more digestible. Beneficial bacteria produce B vitamins during fermentation, actually increasing nutritional value during storage. The strong smell comes from compounds that, while eye-watering to the uninitiated, signal successful preservation rather than spoilage. First-time tasters often express surprise at the disconnect between smell and flavor. Despite the intense aroma, properly fermented fish heads often taste milder than expected, with complex umami flavors and a creamy texture as fats transform during the fermentation process. The experience resembles strong cheese, initially challenging but appreciated for its depth once accustomed to the flavor profile. Traditional knowledge developed precise markers for proper fermentation versus dangerous spoilage. The color, texture, and specific aromatic notes all guide safe consumption. This sensory wisdom represents food safety science developed through observation and intergenerational knowledge transfer rather than laboratory equipment. Modern nutritional analysis confirms what traditional practice discovered. These fermented foods contain beneficial probiotic bacteria that support gut health and immune function. In environments where fresh plants become seasonally unavailable, fermentation creates microbial diversity in the diet that supports overall health. While fermentation masters preservation through bacterial action, the Arctic environment still offers other surprising food sources. Despite brutal conditions, certain herbs and roots manage to thrive where common vegetables would instantly surrender to the cold. Fireweed shoots emerge before most other plants dare show themselves. These early spring treasures provide essential vitamin C after winter months of limited plant access. When harvested young, their tender stems taste similar to asparagus with a unique peppery finish. These plants basically win the award for first to the party in the Arctic growing season. The iconic Arctic cotton grass produces edible roots with surprising carbohydrate content, critical energy sources in an environment where sugars remain scarce. Traditionally harvested by digging through semi-frozen ground, these marble-sized root nodules offer a sweet, crunchy bite reminiscent of water chestnuts. Beech lovage grows remarkably close to shorelines, developing intense flavors as protection against harsh conditions. Its leaves contain essential oils that provide both seasoning for other foods and medicinal benefits for respiratory complaints. The concentrated oils make a little go a long way. Just 2 or 3 leaves flavor an entire pot of stew. It's nature's hot sauce. A tiny amount, big impact, and occasionally makes your eyes water. Most impressive are Arctic willows, whose inner bark contains natural salicylic acid, the same compound used in aspirin. Strips of this bark chewed or steeped in hot water create a natural pain reliever, showcasing how Arctic plants evolved concentrated medicinal compounds as survival adaptations, the original pharmacy that never asks for your insurance card or makes you wait in line. While these hardy plants sustain life through vitamins and medicine, the most nutrient-dense traditional food might surprise outsiders. The next Arctic delicacy comes not from plant or muscle, but from a source many cultures discard entirely. Blood soup, a traditional Arctic delicacy, transforms what might be considered a hunting byproduct into a life-sustaining meal that embodies the waste-nothing approach to survival. Fresh blood from caribou or seal contains remarkable nutritional properties. Rich in iron, protein, and B vitamins, this crimson liquid delivers concentrated energy in a form that warms from within. The iron content in 1 cup of blood soup exceeds 7 times that found in the same volume of beef stew, a critical nutrient for preventing anemia in a climate where pallor can indicate dangerous deficiency. Traditional preparation begins immediately after a successful hunt. The warm blood gets collected in a container, sometimes mixed with small pieces of meat and fat, then heated gently to create a thick, steaming soup. Some recipes include wild onions or beach greens when available, adding flavor complexity and additional vitamins. It's the ultimate one-pot meal that requires no actual cooking pot. The animal provided that too. The texture surprises first-time tasters. Unlike water-based soups, blood has natural thickness from proteins that coagulate slightly during heating. This creates a consistency similar to cream of mushroom soup, but with significantly more nutritional punch. The flavor profile features mineral notes balanced by the rich, meaty undertones from dissolved fats and proteins. Most impressive is the speed factor. Blood soup can be prepared in minutes, providing immediate sustenance during hunting trips when energy needs peak, but time remains limited. This quick energy aspect proves particularly valuable when weather threatens and shelter must be established rapidly. Fast food existed long before drive-thrus, just with considerably more survival value and no colorful mascot. The medicinal aspects extend beyond mere nutrition. Traditional knowledge recognizes blood soup as particularly beneficial for those recovering from illness or injury, when the body needs concentrated building blocks for tissue repair. This understanding aligns perfectly with modern nutritional science, confirming blood as one of the most bioavailable sources of iron and complete proteins. From frozen fish popsicles to blood soup, the 15 extraordinary foods that enable survival at negative 84 degrees demonstrate how human ingenuity, traditional knowledge, and perfect adaptation to local resources can create a complete diet in one of Earth's most challenging environments. Surviving in the Arctic isn't for the weak. When the temperature drops below the point of freezing, every hunt is a battle against nature itself. But for the Inuit, there is no choice. They have to battle the cold in order to survive. So, how do you catch a 4,000-pound giant? Let's begin. These massive marine mammals, weighing up to 4,000 pounds, represent a unique kind of Arctic wealth. A single walrus can provide enough meat to feed an entire community for weeks. Their thick blubber, often reaching depths of 6 inches, transforms into oil that lights homes and waterproofs vital hunting equipment. The iconic tusks, which can grow to an impressive 3 feet in length, become tools and treasured artistic materials that connect modern communities to ancient traditions. Yet harvesting such massive creatures in one of Earth's most unforgiving environments isn't exactly a walk in the park. The practical skills and traditional knowledge required for a successful walrus hunt have been refined over thousands of years, passed down through generations of hunters who learned to read ice formations as easily as most people read street signs. For Arctic communities, walrus hunting isn't just about filling freezers, it's about maintaining a connection to their heritage while ensuring survival in a landscape where success and failure balance on the edge of a knife. And in the Arctic, that edge demands perfection in every aspect of the hunt. The Arctic might be nature's freezer, but that doesn't stop it from being incredibly hard on hunting equipment. When you're dealing with a 4,000-pound animal that can crush ice blocks as thick as your arm, your tools better be tougher than yesterday's frozen leftovers. And trust me, in the Arctic, those leftovers could probably break teeth. One hunter told me his grandmother's caribou stew from last winter could still be used as a hockey puck. In fact, the tools used in walrus hunting represent some of the most durable and well-engineered equipment you'll find anywhere on Earth. Traditional Inuit hunting tools blend ancient wisdom with practical innovation. Take the harpoon, for instance. The traditional design uses a toggle head, a piece that turns sideways under the animal's skin after impact. It's an engineering marvel that would make modern product designers jealous. The toggle head is typically made from walrus ivory or caribou antler, materials that can withstand temperatures cold enough to make steel brittle. These materials aren't chosen by chance. They've proven themselves through centuries of trial and error in the harshest conditions imaginable. Modern harpoons often feature steel tips, but they maintain the same clever toggle principle that Inuit hunters developed centuries ago. The steel isn't just randomly chosen either. It's specifically selected for its ability to maintain strength and flexibility in extreme cold. Some hunters joke that their harpoons are more reliable than their snowmobiles, and they're probably right. There's a saying among Inuit hunters: a snowmobile might leave you stranded, but a good harpoon will never let you down. The harpoon line is another masterpiece of Arctic engineering. Traditional lines were made from bearded seal skin, processed through a method that took weeks to complete. The skin would be cut into thin strips, dried, and then braided into incredibly strong rope. These ropes could withstand several tons of force without breaking, essential when you're trying to hold on to something that weighs as much as a small truck and isn't too happy about being harpooned. The processing of seal skin for rope making is an art form in itself, with specific techniques passed down through generations. Each strip must be cut to precise specifications. Too thick and the rope becomes stiff and unwieldy. Too thin and it might snap under pressure. Today's hunters often use nylon ropes, but they're specially chosen for their cold weather performance. Regular nylon becomes brittle in Arctic temperatures, but these specialized ropes maintain their flexibility down to -40 degrees, the point where Fahrenheit and Celsius finally agree on how cold it is. As one hunter put it, that's the temperature where even your nose hairs start filing complaints with management. Some hunters still prefer traditional sealskin lines, claiming they have better feel when a walrus is pulling on them. As one hunter put it, nylon tells you if the walrus is pulling. Sealskin tells you what the walrus is thinking. This innate understanding of how different materials behave under stress is crucial for survival in the Arctic. The tools require constant maintenance, a fact that's led to some interesting innovations. Hunters often store their harpoon heads in seal oil, which prevents rust and keeps the mechanisms moving smoothly even in extreme cold. This traditional preservation method has proven so effective that even hunters using modern equipment often adopt it. The seal oil creates a protective barrier against moisture and salt, two elements that can quickly destroy hunting equipment in the Arctic environment. A well-maintained traditional harpoon can last for generations. There are documented cases of harpoons being passed down for over 100 years, with the basic toggle head design remaining virtually unchanged. That's what engineers call, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Each harpoon carries its own history, with marks and notches often indicating successful hunts or significant events. Some older harpoons have tallies carved into their handles, recording decades of successful catches. The float bags, which help tire out a struck walrus and mark its location, show similar ingenuity. Traditionally made from whole seal skins sewn and turned inside out, these floats could hold enough air to support several hundred pounds. Modern hunters might use inflatable buoys, but the principle remains the same. Some hunters have started using bright orange floats instead of traditional brown ones, leading to the joke that modern walruses must think they're being hunted by giant citrus fruits. These floats play a crucial role in the hunt, not just marking location, but also helping to exhaust the walrus by forcing it to drag the buoyant objects through the water. Every tool has its specific purpose and place in the hunt. The ice testing tool, or savgut, is used to check ice thickness and stability. It's essentially a spear with a specialized tip that can tell an experienced hunter not just how thick the ice is, but also its quality. One hunter demonstrated this by tapping the ice and declaring, "This ice is like my mother-in-law, thick but untrustworthy." His mother-in-law, fortunately, lives in another community. The savgut's design allows hunters to quickly assess ice conditions while moving, a crucial skill when tracking walrus across potentially dangerous terrain. The hunting toolkit also includes a collection of specialized knives. The traditional ulu, a rounded knife with a handle on top, is perfect for processing meat and hide. Its design allows for maximum force with minimal effort, which is crucial when you're cutting through several inches of walrus hide. Speaking of which, here's another interesting fact. Walrus hide can be up to 4 inches thick in some places, making it tougher than most boot leather. The ulu's curved blade and ergonomic handle allow hunters to work for hours without fatigue, an essential feature when processing a walrus that can provide hundreds of pounds of meat and usable materials. Modern additions to the toolkit include ice anchors and pulley systems that help secure and haul caught walrus. These tools blend seamlessly with traditional equipment, creating a hybrid system that honors ancestral knowledge while embracing useful innovations. Some hunters have even started using special synthetic materials for their sleds that reduce friction on the ice. Though, as one elder noted, a fancy sled won't help if you don't know where to point it. He then added with a wink, "It just means you'll get lost faster and in much more style." This balance between traditional and modern tools shows how Inuit hunters adapt while maintaining their cultural heritage. Storage and transportation of these tools requires its own set of specialized equipment. Traditional tool bags made from waterproof sealskin keep essential items dry and organized. These bags have specific pockets and compartments for each tool, arranged so hunters can find what they need by feeling alone, crucial when you're wearing thick mittens in the dark. One young hunter learned this the hard way when he reached into the wrong pocket and grabbed his lunch instead of his ice tester. The design of these bags reflects generations of experience, with each pocket placed for optimal weight distribution and quick access. The most remarkable aspect of these tools isn't just their effectiveness, but their adaptability. Over generations, Inuit hunters have refined each piece of equipment to work perfectly in some of the harshest conditions on Earth. A single hunting expedition might subject these tools to temperatures ranging from minus 40 degrees Celsius to just above freezing, all while dealing with the tremendous forces exerted by a struggling walrus. This adaptability extends to the hunters themselves, who must maintain intimate knowledge of how each tool performs under different conditions. Each hunting tool undergoes rigorous testing in real-world conditions before being trusted on a hunt. Hunters often spend hours practicing with new equipment, ensuring they understand its limitations and capabilities. This testing period is crucial. A tool failure during a walrus hunt could have catastrophic consequences. Many hunters maintain backup equipment, carefully stored and maintained, ready to replace any tool that shows signs of wear. The relationship between hunter and tools goes beyond mere functionality. Each piece of equipment carries stories, memories, and lessons learned from close calls and successful hunts. Tools are often marked with personal symbols or family markings, creating a physical connection between past and present generations of hunters. These marks serve both practical and cultural purposes. They help identify ownership while also maintaining a record of the tool's history and the skills it represents. As night falls in the Arctic and tools are carefully cleaned and stored away, hunters know that tomorrow they'll face new challenges. But with generations of knowledge built into every tool, they're ready for whatever the hunt might bring. After all, in the Arctic, your life doesn't just depend on having the right tools, it depends on knowing exactly how to use them. Now, let's dive into what might be the most challenging part of walrus hunting: actually finding these massive creatures in the vast Arctic wilderness. As my old friend Aklak from Igloolik once told me, finding a walrus is like trying to spot a black dot on a white sheet of paper the size of a football field. Except the dot keeps moving and the paper changes shape every day. The Arctic isn't just big, it's absolutely enormous. We're talking about millions of square miles of ice, water, and more ice. You'd think spotting a 4,000-pound animal would be easy, right? Well, here's the funny thing. Walruses are actually master hide-and-seek champions of the North. They blend surprisingly well with the rocky shores and ice flows despite their size. One hunter told me he once walked right past a group of walruses because he thought they were just oddly shaped rocks. The real secret to finding walrus lies in understanding their daily routines. These creatures are creatures of habit, but their habits change with the seasons. During spring, they love hanging out on ice floes that drift near their favorite feeding spots. A single walrus can eat up to 6,000 clams in one day. That's more shellfish than most seafood restaurants serve in a week. These feeding grounds become hot spots for hunters, but getting there requires perfect timing. The ice tells stories to those who know how to read it. Experienced hunters can spot a walrus's presence just by looking at ice patterns. Walruses need to breathe every 4 to 10 minutes when they're active, so they maintain breathing holes in the ice. These holes aren't just random. They're carefully chosen spots where the ice is naturally thinner. Hunters look for these holes, which can be up to 3 feet wide and have distinct smooth edges from repeated use. The wind carries crucial information too. When the wind blows just right, hunters can hear walruses from over a mile away. Their distinctive grunts and bellows echo across the ice. It's a sound that's hard to describe, but once you've heard it, you never forget it. Some hunters say it sounds like a mix between a lion's roar and your uncle snoring after Thanksgiving dinner. But it gets interesting when you know that the walruses are social media experts of the sea. They communicate constantly with each other, and hunters have learned to recognize different types of calls. There's the all-clear grunt, the danger-approaching snort, and even the, "Hey, I found some good clams over here" whistle. Understanding these sounds is crucial for hunters trying to track a herd. Migration patterns play a huge role in locating walrus. These patterns have been passed down through generations of Inuit families, each adding their own observations to the knowledge base. Modern hunters use GPS to mark successful hunting spots, but they still rely heavily on traditional knowledge about walrus behavior. For instance, they know that walrus tend to return to the same areas year after year. Talk about creatures of habit. The hunting grounds themselves vary dramatically with the seasons. In winter, walruses prefer areas where strong currents prevent thick ice from forming, creating natural openings called polynyas. These spots become gathering points not just for walrus, but for an entire ecosystem of Arctic wildlife. Hunters who know the locations of these polynyas have a significant advantage in locating their prey. Reading the environment goes beyond just looking for walrus signs. Hunters watch for specific birds that often feed near walrus herds. The appearance of certain seals can also indicate nearby walrus activity. It's like nature's own notification system. Even the color of the water can tell hunters if walruses have been feeding in the area recently. A slightly muddy appearance to the water often indicates that walruses have been digging up clams from the seafloor. The waiting game is perhaps the most challenging part. Once a likely spot is found, hunters might need to wait for hours or even days for the perfect moment. It's not unusual for hunters to build small ice shelters where they can watch and wait while staying protected from the brutal Arctic winds. During these long waits, stories are shared, skills are taught to younger hunters, and traditional knowledge is passed down. Some of the best hunting tips have been shared during these waiting periods, passed from experienced hunters to the next generation. Technology has changed some aspects of walrus hunting, but finding them remains largely a game of patience and traditional knowledge. Some hunters now use binoculars and even drones to spot herds from a distance, but these tools only complement the age-old skills of reading ice, wind, and animal behavior. The most successful hunters are those who blend modern technology with traditional tracking methods. The success rate of finding walrus varies greatly with experience. Novice hunters might spend days searching without success, while experienced hunters can often locate a herd within hours. This isn't just luck, it's the result of years of learning to read the Arctic environment like a book. An experienced hunter can look at an ice formation and know instantly whether it's likely to attract walrus, based on factors like thickness, stability, and proximity to feeding grounds. As the ice conditions continue changing due to warming temperatures, walrus patterns are shifting too. This makes traditional knowledge even more valuable, as hunters need to adapt their searching techniques to new conditions. The ability to find walrus isn't just about following a set of rules, it's about understanding an entire ecosystem and how it changes over time. Hunters must now be more adaptable than ever, combining generations of knowledge with new observations about changing wildlife patterns. With a walrus herd finally located, hunters must switch gears completely. All the knowledge and patience used in finding the walrus now takes a back seat to the art of the silent approach. But that's a story for our next section. When approaching a walrus, hunters must become virtually invisible. No small feat when you're bundled up like a walking winter coat sail. The first rule of walrus approach is simple: never move directly toward them. Walruses might have poor eyesight, but they can detect straight-line movement with surprising accuracy. Instead, hunters use a zigzag pattern, taking advantage of ice ridges and snow drifts for cover. One wrong move, one careless step, and hours of patient stalking dissolve faster than an ice cube in hot coffee. Traditional hunters use kayaks to approach walrus herds from the water, a method that's both incredibly effective and frankly, brave enough to make your knees wobble. These kayaks, masterfully crafted from sealskin stretched over wooden frames, can slip through water with barely a ripple. A well-made traditional kayak creates less water displacement than a sleeping seal, making it nearly undetectable to nearby walruses. The role of wind direction cannot be overstated in the approach. Walruses have an excellent sense of smell. They can detect human scent from over half a mile away when the wind is right. Hunters must constantly monitor wind direction, staying downwind of their quarry. Some hunters carry a small pouch of snow powder to release occasionally, nature's version of a wind direction indicator. Team coordination during the approach resembles an elaborate dance choreographed in slow motion. Different groups of hunters take specific roles. Some act as decoys, carefully positioning themselves to keep the walrus's attention in one direction, while others move into striking positions. These roles rotate throughout the hunt, with hunters communicating through hand signals that haven't changed in generations. At certain temperatures, snow becomes squeaky underfoot, a sound that can travel surprisingly far across the ice. Experienced hunters know exactly how to adjust their weight distribution to minimize noise. The technique involves rolling each foot from heel to toe while keeping your weight centered, similar to a cat stalking its prey, except the cat isn't wearing 3 layers of thermal underwear. Reading walrus behavior becomes critical during the approach. These animals have a complex system of social cues that hunters have learned to interpret. A raised head might indicate curiosity rather than alarm. A slight shift in position could signal anything from mild interest to imminent flight. One hunter described it as reading a book written in Walrus, a language where every twitch and turn has meaning. The distance maintained between hunting team members follows a precise formula based on ice conditions and herd size. On solid ice, hunters might spread out more widely, while on thinner ice, they stay closer together for safety. A little-known fact, the optimal spacing between hunters typically matches the average length of 2 adult walruses, about 24 feet. This spacing allows for quick mutual support while minimizing the chance of being detected. Stealth techniques vary with the seasons. During the darker months, hunters can move more freely, but must be extra cautious about noise. In brighter conditions, shadow management becomes crucial. Hunters often time their approaches to coincide with the long shadows of early morning or late evening when their silhouettes blend more naturally with the ice landscape. Modern hunting parties might use synthetic materials that help mask human scent, but traditional methods remain surprisingly effective. Seal oil rubbed on clothing helps mask human odor, though as one hunter jokes, after a few days of that, even the walruses start to smell better than you do. The most challenging aspect of the approach often involves crossing areas of broken ice. These zones require a combination of balance, timing, and nerves of steel. Hunters must distribute their weight carefully, sometimes lying flat and crawling across particularly unstable sections. The technique has earned the nickname the Arctic Shuffle, a move you won't find in any dance club, but one that might just save your life on the ice. A successful approach also depends on understanding walrus social dynamics. The animals often post sentries, usually older females with sharp eyes and even sharper tusks. These lookouts take turns watching for danger while others rest. Through generations of observation, hunters have learned to identify these sentinel walruses and plan their approaches accordingly. One elder noted with a smirk, "The teenager walruses make the worst guards. They're too busy showing off their new tusks. Patience defines every movement of the hunt. A single approach might take hours, with hunters moving mere inches at a time when close to the herd. But even the most careful approach doesn't guarantee success. The real test of nerves comes next. Striking a walrus might sound straightforward. Just throw the harpoon and hope for the best, right? Well, that's about as effective as trying to parallel park a car while blindfolded. The moment of striking requires more precision than a surgeon and better timing than a professional comedian. The sweet spot for a successful strike lies just behind the walrus's shoulder blade. Hit too far forward, and the thick blubber might prevent proper penetration. Too far back, and the strike won't be effective enough. The target area is roughly the size of a dinner plate. Not exactly a generous target when you're dealing with a moving 4,000-pound animal that could decide to dive underwater at any second. A walrus's skin can be up to 4 inches thick, with a blubber layer adding another 6 inches of cushioning. That's 10 inches of tough tissue the harpoon needs to penetrate. To put that in perspective, it's like trying to push a needle through a stack of leather jackets while they're being worn by a very uncooperative customer. The actual throw requires explosive power combined with laser-like accuracy. Hunters must generate enough force to drive the harpoon through all those layers while maintaining perfect control over the direction. The technique involves a specific throwing motion that's been refined over centuries. One elder describes it as throwing lightning: quick, powerful, and precise. Cold muscles don't exactly perform at their best, which is why hunters often do subtle exercises to stay warm during the approach. These movements need to be small enough not to alert the walrus, but sufficient to keep the blood flowing. As one hunter puts it, you need to be ready to throw a harpoon even if you can't feel your fingers, which is most of the time. The critical moment before the strike involves reading the walrus's breathing pattern. These marine mammals typically surface to breathe every 5 to 7 minutes, staying up for about 2 minutes before diving again. That's the window of opportunity. Hunters time their strikes to coincide with the middle of the breathing interval when the walrus is most relaxed and stable. A peculiar fact: walruses actually hold their breath when they're nervous, making their breathing pattern a reliable indicator of whether they've spotted the hunters. A 20-mile-per-hour wind can deflect a harpoon by several inches over a throwing distance of 20 feet. Experienced hunters instinctively adjust their aim to compensate for wind conditions. They don't need fancy ballistics calculators. Generations of practice have taught them exactly how much to adjust for different wind speeds and directions. The harpoon line itself requires special handling during the strike. It needs to play out smoothly without tangling, a task that's about as easy as untangling Christmas lights while wearing mittens. The line is coiled in a specific pattern that allows it to deploy without snagging. Some hunters can even detect problems with the line's deployment by sound alone, a skill that's earned them the nickname the line whisperers. Team coordination during the strike resembles a well-rehearsed orchestra performance, minus the music and plus a lot more adrenaline. Each hunter knows their role. The primary striker, the line handlers, and the backup team must move in perfect synchronization. One wrong step, one moment of hesitation, and hours of careful preparation evaporate like breath in the Arctic air. Modern materials have improved certain aspects of the strike, but the fundamental techniques remain unchanged. Steel harpoon heads might be sharper than traditional bone ones, but they still need to be thrown with the same precision. Some hunters joke that the only real improvement is that modern harpoons don't need to be sharpened as often. A small comfort when you're facing down a walrus that weighs as much as a mid-size SUV. The most remarkable aspect of the strike is how hunters maintain their composure. The adrenaline surge must be managed, breathing controlled, and movements kept deliberate and smooth. It's like trying to thread a needle while riding a roller coaster, except the needle is a harpoon and the roller coaster is the Arctic environment itself. Success or failure often comes down to milliseconds. The difference between a perfect strike and a complete miss might be the width of a walrus whisker. Speaking of which, those whiskers, called vibrissae, are incredibly sensitive and can detect movement in the water from surprising distances. A successful striker must account for this, making their final movement so smooth it doesn't send telltale vibrations through the ice. The next few moments after the strike will test every ounce of strength and skill the hunting party possesses. Because when you've just harpooned a creature that thinks ice boulders make comfortable pillows, you better be ready for what comes next. The moment after a walrus is struck unleashes enough raw power to make a bodybuilder look like a couch potato. A male walrus can generate over 2,000 pounds of pulling force, enough to drag a small car across ice. During the first few seconds of the struggle, hunting teams often slide across the ice like kids on a very fast, very scary amusement park ride. Strength alone won't win this battle. The hunter's technique involves a careful balance of force and flexibility. The lead line handler plants their feet in a wide stance, knees bent, body angled away from the hole, a position that would make any tug-of-war champion proud. Meanwhile, other team members quickly secure additional anchor points in the ice, creating a web of resistance against the walrus's powerful pulls. A striking fact about this phase of the hunt: the average struggle lasts between 20 and 45 minutes, during which time the hunting team might have to resist more than 100 intense pulls. The physical demands are so high that hunters rotate positions every few minutes. One elder hunter claims he burned more calories in a single walrus struggle than his grandson did during an entire week at his office job, though he admits his grandson's coffee runs might count as exercise. The walrus's initial reaction follows a predictable pattern, but that doesn't make it any easier to handle. First comes the power dive, a sudden explosive plunge that can snap inferior lines like cotton thread. This is followed by what hunters call the submarine phase, where the walrus swims deep and strong, testing every knot and connection in the hunting gear. The line cuts through the water with enough force to create a high-pitched whine, earning this moment the nickname the walrus whistle. Team communication during the struggle must be clear and constant, despite everyone wearing thick mittens and heavy winter gear. Hunters use a combination of verbal calls and hand signals that haven't changed much in generations. More slack! Brace left! Switch out! These commands cut through the Arctic air like bullets, each one crucial to maintaining control of the situation. One hunter jokes that it's the only time you'll hear perfectly coordinated shouting outside of a military drill or a family dinner argument. The physics of the struggle are fascinating. A single hunting line can experience forces exceeding 3,000 pounds during peak moments. The hunters use this force against the walrus, allowing it to tire itself out through its own powerful movements. Ice anchoring techniques have evolved over generations to handle these intense forces. Hunters create multiple anchor points using ice screws and specialized hooks, arranging them in a triangular pattern that distributes the load. This setup can withstand forces that would tear apart lesser arrangements. Some hunters have developed a technique they call the star pattern, using 5 or more anchor points to create an almost unbreakable hold on the ice. Different animals have different fighting styles. Young bulls tend to make explosive, erratic movements, while older ones often employ more sustained, powerful pulls. Experienced hunters can often tell the age and size of a walrus just by feeling how it fights on the line. As one hunter puts it, each walrus fights like it has its own personality. Some are boxers, some are wrestlers, and some just try to show off. Wind chill factors often drop below negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze exposed skin in minutes. Hunters must maintain their grip and coordination while wearing thick gloves, moving across ice that's sometimes smoother than a bowling alley. One clever innovation involves spreading seal blood on boot soles for extra traction, though this technique comes with the downside of making your boots smell like, well, seal blood. The role of float bags becomes critical during extended struggles. These buoyant aids, attached to secondary lines, help tire the walrus and mark its location during long dives. Modern hunters sometimes use special inflatable buoys, but traditional sealskin floats remain popular. They're more durable in extreme cold and, according to some hunters, have just the right amount of give and take in the water. Plus, they don't deflate if punctured by ice, a feature that no amount of modern engineering has managed to improve upon. An interesting adaptation in recent years has been the development of quick-release mechanisms for emergency situations. These allow hunters to instantly disconnect from a dangerous situation while keeping the main line secured. It's a bit like having an ejector seat in a car. You hope you never need it, but you're glad it's there. The traditional version of this involved a special knot that could be undone with a single pull, showing that sometimes the old ways had already figured out the best solution. Statistics show that about 30% of struck walruses escape despite the hunter's best efforts. These outcomes usually result from equipment failure or poor team coordination rather than the walrus's strength alone. That's why hunters maintain their gear with almost obsessive attention to detail and practice their coordination techniques even during the off-season. After all, nobody wants to be the team that literally lets the big one get away. When the struggle finally begins to turn in the hunter's favor, preparation for the next phase must begin immediately. Hauling a walrus onto the ice is about as easy as parallel parking a whale. After the exhausting struggle in the water, hunters face their next challenge, moving something that weighs as much as 2 cars without the convenience of wheels. It's the kind of task that makes moving a couch up 3 flights of stairs look like child's play. The first critical decision comes right after the walrus is tired, choosing the exit point. Not just any spot along the ice edge will do. Hunters look for what they call a landing shelf, a section of ice thick enough to support the massive weight, but low enough to aid in hauling. These spots are so valuable that some hunting communities have traditional names for reliable hauling locations, passed down through generations like family recipes. It takes an average of 8 people working in perfect coordination to haul an adult walrus onto the ice. The force required often exceeds 5,000 pounds, about the same as lifting a fully loaded pickup truck. Hunters use a complex system of ropes and pulleys that would impress any engineering student, though, as one hunter quipped, we had pulleys figured out long before anyone wrote a textbook about them. The actual hauling technique has evolved over centuries of trial and error. Teams arrange themselves in a formation that looks a bit like a strange dance routine. The strongest pullers take the front positions, while others manage the guide ropes that keep the walrus from sliding sideways. Everyone moves in synchronized pulls, their movements timed to shared vocal commands that echo across the ice. Traditional tools play a crucial role in the hauling process. The kamutig, a special sled designed for Arctic conditions, often serves as an anchor point for the pulley system. These sleds are built without nails or screws. Instead, they use rope lashing that flexes with the ice, making them incredibly durable. Some hunters swear these traditional sleds could survive a nuclear blast, though nobody's keen on testing that theory. The physics of ice friction creates some surprising advantages. At certain temperatures, a thin layer of water forms between the walrus and the ice, creating a natural sliding surface. Hunters take advantage of this phenomenon by timing their pulls to coincide with these moments of reduced friction. It's nature's version of a slip and slide, except the thing sliding weighs 2 tons and has sharp tusks. Speaking of tusks, they present their own unique challenge during hauling. Male walruses can have tusks up to 3 feet long, which need to be managed carefully to prevent them from catching on the ice edge. Teams often assign a specific person to guide the tusks using specialized hooks. This job earned the nickname Tusk Whisperer, though most hunters agree it's more about muscle than sweet talk. Temperature plays a crucial role in the hauling process. The ideal temperature range is between -5 degrees Celsius and -15 degrees Celsius. Any warmer, and the ice becomes too soft and dangerous. Any colder, and the equipment becomes too rigid. One hunter tells of a time when it was so cold, the ropes became stiff enough to stand upright on their own. Like frozen spaghetti, he says. Except spaghetti doesn't cost you a week's wages if it breaks. Innovation meets tradition in modern hauling methods. Some teams now use synthetic ropes that are stronger than steel by weight, but they still rely on traditional knowledge for knot tying and rope management. A well-tied knot in -40 degrees Fahrenheit weather can mean the difference between success and watching several thousand pounds of walrus disappear back into the Arctic waters. The most remarkable aspect of the hauling process is how hunters adapt their techniques to different ice conditions. Thick, stable ice allows for a more straightforward approach, while thin ice requires distributing the weight across a wider area. Hunters even develop different calls and commands for various ice conditions, a specialized vocabulary that would baffle most language professors. Time management becomes critical during hauling. The entire process needs to be completed before the walrus meat begins to freeze, which can happen surprisingly quickly in Arctic temperatures. Teams often work in rotating shifts, with each group pulling for about 2 minutes before switching out. Any longer, and muscle fatigue becomes dangerous. Modern technology has attempted to simplify the hauling process, but with mixed results. Motorized winches might seem like an obvious solution, but they're often too heavy to transport safely across thin ice. Plus, as one elder pointed out, machines break, but a well-trained team of hunters only gets stronger. There's also the small matter of batteries refusing to work in extreme cold. Another point scored for traditional methods. After securing the walrus on solid ice, the hunting party faces their next challenge. Processing a walrus makes butchering a cow look like slicing a birthday cake. The sheer size of the animal demands not just skill and strength, but also a deep understanding of anatomy and a masterful sense of organization. It's a bit like disassembling a 2-ton puzzle, where every piece has a specific purpose and destination. The butchering process follows a precise sequence developed over countless generations. First comes the removal of the tough outer hide, a task that requires specialized tools and techniques. The hide alone can weigh up to 500 pounds and measures about an inch thick in most places. Traditional igloos, curved knives with incredibly sharp edges, slice through this leather-like material with remarkable precision. Some hunters joke that you could probably use walrus hide to make tank armor, though nobody's tried it yet. A single adult walrus can provide up to 1,500 pounds of meat and edible organs. That's enough to feed several families for months. The meat itself has a distinctive dark red color and contains more protein per pound than beef. Speaking of nutrition, walrus liver packs more vitamin C than oranges, a crucial source of vitamins in the Arctic where fresh fruit is about as common as palm trees. The distribution of the harvest follows traditional customs that would impress any logistics expert. Each part of the walrus goes to specific families or community members based on their role in the hunt and their needs. The system ensures nothing goes to waste and everyone benefits from the hunt. One elder compares it to a well-orchestrated symphony, except instead of music, you're coordinating the movement of several thousand pounds of meat and materials. The blubber layer presents its own unique challenges. This thick insulating fat can be up to 6 inches deep and requires careful removal to preserve its quality. Skilled hunters can separate it from the meat in large sheets, a technique that takes years to master. The blubber serves multiple purposes. It's rendered into oil for lamps, used as a food source, and even helps waterproof traditional hunting equipment. One hunter noted that nothing makes boots more waterproof than walrus oil. Though he wouldn't recommend it for your everyday sneakers, the meat needs to be kept from freezing solid while being cut. No small feat in the Arctic, but it also can't be allowed to warm too much. Hunters often work in shifts with some processing while others prepare storage containers or arrange transportation. It's like a highly specialized Arctic cooking show, except the kitchen is made of ice and the refrigerator is basically everywhere. The tusks require special attention during processing. These massive ivory teeth, which can grow up to 3 feet long, are carefully removed and cleaned. They've traditionally been used to make tools and art pieces, though nowadays they're often preserved as ceremonial items. A little-known fact, walrus tusks continue growing throughout the animal's life, adding growth rings like trees. Some hunters can estimate a walrus's age just by counting these rings. The bone structure of a walrus provides another valuable resource. The dense bones, particularly from the skull and shoulders, are traditionally carved into tools and hunting implements. Some communities have special craftsmen who can transform these bones into everything from sled runners to fishing hooks. The shoulder blades alone are large enough to serve as impromptu snow shovels in a pinch, leading to the old Arctic joke about walruses helping with winter cleanup even after they're gone. Even the internal organs have specific uses. The stomach, cleaned and stretched, becomes a traditional drum membrane that produces a deep, resonant sound perfect for ceremonial gatherings. The intestines, properly prepared, transform into waterproof clothing material that outperforms many modern synthetics in harsh conditions. The heart, rich in nutrients, is often shared among the hunters for immediate consumption. One hunter quips that eating fresh walrus heart gives you the strength of a walrus, minus the blubbery waistline. Modern storage methods blend with traditional practices in fascinating ways. While some parts are still preserved using ancestral techniques like air drying and fermentation, others might find their way into modern freezers. The community's traditional food storage facilities, built into the permafrost, maintain a perfect temperature year-round without using any electricity. It's nature's version of a walk-in freezer, and it never breaks down. Traditional preservation techniques include a method called igloos, where specific cuts of meat are fermented under carefully controlled conditions. This process, which might seem unusual to outsiders, creates a preserved food that's both nutritious and culturally significant. The technique requires such precise knowledge that experienced processors can tell the quality of the final product just by the sound the meat makes when cut. The most remarkable aspect of walrus processing is how it brings the community together. Everyone has a role to play, from the youngest children learning to clean small pieces to the elders supervising the distribution. The process often becomes a living classroom where traditional knowledge is passed down through hands-on experience. One hunter remembers learning to process walrus alongside his grandfather, who could identify every muscle and organ by touch alone, a skill developed through decades of practice. Sharing stories during processing is a cherished tradition. Hunters recount tales of past hunts, elders share traditional knowledge, and children learn their community's history through these conversations. In this way, the walrus continues giving to the community long after the hunt ends, not just through its physical bounty, but through the connections it helps create between generations. The timing of processing is crucial and often misunderstood by outsiders. Hunters don't just cut up a walrus whenever they catch one. They time the processing based on several environmental factors. The phase of the moon affects ambient light for nighttime work, while wind direction influences how quickly the meat might freeze or spoil. Some hunters even swear they can smell incoming weather changes and will adjust their processing schedule accordingly. Temperature management during processing requires incredible ingenuity. Hunters often create temporary snow walls to block harsh winds, while simultaneously using snow's insulating properties to keep meat at the perfect temperature. They'll sometimes dig shallow pits in the snow, creating microclimates that maintain ideal processing conditions. One veteran hunter demonstrated how different types of snow can create varying temperatures. Powder snow for colder storage, packed snow for slightly warmer conditions. The role of weather prediction in processing is fascinating and rarely documented. Hunters have developed a complex system of reading clouds that specifically relates to meat preservation. Certain cloud formations signal optimal processing conditions, while others warn of approaching weather that could compromise the meat. Some communities maintain weather watchers during processing, usually elders with decades of experience who can predict processing conditions up to 48 hours in advance based on subtle atmospheric changes. Processing locations themselves carry historical significance. Many communities have traditional processing spots that have been used for generations, each chosen for specific advantages: natural windbreaks, optimal sun exposure, or proximity to ice storage areas. These sites often have names in Inuktitut that describe their unique features or commemorate significant events. One processing ground translates roughly to "where grandfather's harpoon broke, but the feast was good anyway." The sound of processing has its own language. Experienced processors can tell if a knife needs sharpening just by the sound it makes passing through blubber. They can identify if meat is freezing too quickly by the specific crunch it makes when cut. Even the sound of footsteps on snow around the processing area carries meaning, different pitches indicating whether the snow is too warm or cold for optimal processing conditions. As the final pieces of walrus are stored away and tools cleaned for the next hunt, it's clear that processing these massive animals is far more than just butchering meat. It's a delicate dance of traditional knowledge and timing, where weather reading meets knife skills, where the phases of the moon guide processing schedules, and where even the sounds of footsteps in snow carry crucial information.
Ever tried finding your way through a place where everything looks exactly the same? That's what the Arctic is like in the winter. A vast white landscape where one snowy hill looks just like another. But the Inuit people have figured out something pretty clever. They use the wind as their personal compass. In many parts of the Arctic, the wind has a habit of blowing from the same direction, usually from the north or northeast. It's like having a built-in GPS system, except instead of a robotic voice telling you where to go, you've got a freezing breeze slapping you in the face. The Inuit have actually named these winds based on where they come from, and they can identify up to 16 different directions just by feeling the wind on their faces. Talk about having a sixth sense. What's really amazing is how much the Inuit trust the wind when everything else fails. Even in the worst conditions, when visibility is so bad you can barely see your own feet, experienced hunters can still find their way home just by paying attention to which way the wind is blowing. It's like having a weather vane permanently installed in your brain. But here's where it gets interesting. The Inuit have such a deep understanding of these wind patterns that they've created an entire vocabulary around them. They don't just know north and south, they've got words for all those tricky in-between directions too. As one elder put it, as long as you know where the winds blow, you can know where you're going. Though I bet they wish sometimes that the winds could be a bit warmer. Speaking of finding your way around, the Inuit have a completely different way of looking at maps compared to what most of us are used to. When Europeans first brought their paper maps to the Arctic, the Inuit probably looked at them the same way most of us look at our grandmother's smartphone, with a mix of confusion and amusement. European maps show everything from a bird's eye view, with neat little lines and grids everywhere. It's like trying to navigate your neighborhood by looking at it through Google Earth, except without the helpful "you are here" pin. The Inuit take a completely different approach. Their maps aren't something you can fold up and stick in your pocket. They exist in their minds and stories. They see the land from ground level, the way you actually experience it when you're walking around. Instead of measuring exact distances, they focus on what you'll see along the way. It's less turn left in 500 meters and more keep going until you see that weird-looking rock that kind of resembles your Uncle Bob. What makes Inuit maps really special is that they're always changing. Unlike paper maps that become outdated the moment an ice shelf breaks off or a new trail forms, Inuit knowledge adapts to these changes. Their mental maps update faster than your phone's navigation app, and they don't need Wi-Fi to do it. They pass this information down through stories, describing routes and landmarks in ways that capture both the physical features and their cultural significance. The flexibility of Inuit mapping really shows its value when conditions change. While a European map might show you a perfectly good route that's actually been blocked by a newly formed ice crack, Inuit knowledge would have already adapted to include this change. It's like having a living, breathing GPS system that knows about road closures before they even happen. As important as these mental maps are, the Inuit also rely heavily on physical landmarks to find their way around their vast, snowy world. The stars that most of us see as just twinkling dots in the sky serve as a sophisticated navigation system for the Inuit people. Most of us can barely find the Big Dipper in the night sky, and here's the Inuit using entire constellations to find their way home. For them, the stars aren't just pretty lights in the sky, they're street signs written in starlight. Different star clusters have specific names that match up with landmarks on the ground. The Northern Cross, for example, might point to where certain mountain ranges are, while other star patterns lead straight to the best hunting spots. The North Star plays an especially clever role in Arctic navigation, but not in the way you might expect. Sure, it points north, that's kind of its whole thing, but the Inuit use it more like a level in a carpenter's toolkit. They watch how high it sits above the horizon to figure out if they've drifted too far in one direction. If the star seems lower or higher than usual, they know they've moved from their usual hunting grounds. It's basically the world's biggest "you are here" sign. The moon gets its share of attention too. While most of us just use it for romantic walks or werewolf warnings, the Inuit track its path across the sky like it's a giant clock combined with a compass. The way it rises and sets tells them not just what time of year it is, but also helps them keep track of how far they've traveled. They can tell the difference between December and January just by looking at the moon's position, which is more than most of us can do with a calendar hanging right in front of us. Of course, stars and the moon aren't much help when it's cloudy, or during the summer months when the sun barely sets. That's when knowing how to read ice and snow becomes crucial. Next time you're grumbling about scraping ice off your car windshield, remember that the Inuit see ice as an entire language waiting to be read. For them, navigation through the Arctic isn't just about knowing which direction to go. It's about reading the frozen landscape like a map that's constantly being rewritten by nature itself. Take snowdrifts, for example. These aren't just annoying piles of snow that the wind decided to dump in your path. The way snow packs and drifts actually reveals what's hiding underneath and helps chart the safest route forward. If you find smooth, tightly packed snow, you're probably walking on stable ground that's good for traveling. But if the snow is deep and loose, you might want to change course. There could be a sneaky slope or an avalanche-prone area lurking below. It's like having X-ray vision, minus the fancy superhero costume. The cracks in ice tell their own stories too, helping create mental pathways across frozen lakes and seas. Those spiderweb patterns you see spreading across frozen lakes aren't just nature's attempt at abstract art. They're actually giving away secrets about which routes are safe to travel. The Inuit know that certain crack patterns mean the ice is thick enough to walk on, while others scream "danger" louder than your mum when you're about to do something stupid. They can read these patterns so well that they can plot entire journeys across the ice, even in the darkest winter months. But perhaps the most fascinating part is how they understand different types of ice textures to plan their routes. Milky, rotten-looking ice means it's been warming up and isn't trustworthy, kind of like that leftover takeout that's been sitting in your fridge for a week. Clear, solid ice, on the other hand, means temperatures have been consistently cold and you're good to go. As impressive as all this ice reading is, there's another fascinating way the Inuit navigate their frozen world. by watching the local wildlife. If animals could talk, they'd probably tell us that humans are terrible at finding their way around. Fortunately for the Inuit, they've learned to understand what Arctic animals are saying through their behaviors and movements. It's like having a wilderness version of Google Maps, except instead of a blue dot showing your location, you've got caribou herds and Arctic foxes pointing the way. Birds are particularly chatty when it comes to giving directions. When massive flocks of seagulls, geese, and ravens start heading south, it's not because they've booked a winter vacation in Miami. These migrations tell the Inuit exactly when seasons are changing and which way is south. Though you have to admit, those birds might be onto something with the whole winter in Florida thing. Caribou, those majestic Arctic wanderers, serve as four-legged GPS devices. Their grazing patterns reveal more than just where to find the best Arctic salad bars. They show where the ground is stable enough for travel and where good hunting spots might be. When a herd moves in a particular direction, it often means there's a safe ice crossing ahead. It's like they're saying, "Hey humans, follow us, we know a shortcut." Fox tracks in the snow tell stories about the terrain that even the most detailed maps miss. When fox prints bounce around playfully, it's a good sign the ground underneath is solid and safe. But if those tracks look careful and hesitant, like a teenager trying to sneak in past curfew, it's probably best to find another route. The foxes aren't just leaving paw prints, they're leaving travel reviews written in snow. While these animal behaviors provide reliable navigation clues, the Inuit also keep their eyes on the sky above, and not just to watch for more migrating birds. The clouds themselves have quite a story to tell. Looking up at clouds isn't just for daydreamers. In the Arctic, it's a vital navigation skill. You might see a bunny or a dragon in those fluffy white shapes, but the Inuit see a detailed weather forecast and navigation guide floating right above their heads. Those puffy cumulus clouds hanging out on the horizon aren't just there to make pretty sunset photos. When they show up, they're usually bringing good news about fair weather ahead. On the flip side, if you spot dark, streaky clouds moving in, it's nature's way of posting a storm coming warning. It's more reliable than your local weather app, and you don't even need to worry about your data plan. The shadows that clouds cast on the ground turn the Arctic landscape into a giant relief map. Dark patches of cloud shadows reveal the land's true shape, showing valleys, hills, and ridges that might be hidden under snow. It's like having a drone's eye view of the terrain, except the drone is actually just a really big, fluffy cloud. And unlike modern technology, these cloud shadows never need charging or software updates. Those long, low nimbostratus clouds that stretch across the sky like a giant grey blanket, they're basically nature's traffic lights. When Inuit travelers spot these clouds, they know it's time to decide whether to push forward or wait things out. These clouds are famous for bringing snow, lots of it. But even with all this cloud reading knowledge, there's one weather condition that can make even the most experienced Inuit navigator pause: fog. In the Arctic, fog is like nature's way of pulling a giant white blanket over everything. Except this blanket isn't cozy or comforting. When thick fog rolls in, even the most skilled Inuit navigators face their biggest challenge. All those carefully memorized landmarks, gone. The helpful wind directions, almost useless. It's like trying to find your way through your house with a blindfold on, except your house is the size of a small country and everything is frozen. But here's where the real mastery of Inuit navigation shines through. Instead of panicking when the world turns into a swirling white soup, they stay calm and tap into their other senses. They listen for the sound of waves crashing against ice sheets, which tells them where the open water is. They pay attention to subtle changes in the wind on their faces. Some can even smell the difference between land and sea ice through the fog, a skill that would make a bloodhound jealous. During these whiteout conditions, the Inuit follow one golden rule: don't rush. While most of us would be tempted to keep moving in hopes of finding something familiar, experienced travelers know better. They'll often make a temporary camp and wait it out, rather than risk getting even more lost. It's probably the only time in history when sitting around doing nothing is actually the smart choice. They also have some clever tricks for foggy situations. The direction of snowdrifts can still be felt under their feet. Animal sounds, even faint ones, can indicate which way land lies. And sometimes, the faintest glow of light through the fog can reveal where the sun is, giving them at least a basic sense of direction. These navigation techniques have helped the Inuit survive and thrive in one of Earth's most challenging environments.